Welcome to Draw a Circle, episode number 2. Here we
Hey!
are. We're back.
I actually saw the intro. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that one works pretty well.
yeah, that went pretty well. Except, admittedly, it will sound much better on the YouTube broadcast because it took me a second to turn down the music. So we're kind of talking over music that's a little too loud in the beginning, but that's only in the live stream. So in the YouTube broadcast, everything sounds just fine.
I love the fact that you're saying everything sounds fine while slowly devolving into a robot.
Oh no. Hopefully that won't be something. Again, we should reiterate as we start, if anything is off on the levels or our audios, if anything sounds weird, just let us know in the chat and we can make adjustments as we go live. There were some sound issues last week. It was hard to get the balance because OBS doesn't have a live mixer, so I can't hear how it sounds to everyone else. We can only hear how it sounds to us.
Yes. So let us know if anything sounds weird. I heard a little bit of robot-iness, but hopefully it's only on my end. I think it's okay now.
Yeah. Hopefully that is just a single case internet thing. Can't even think of words. It's still that thing I still need to adjust from our last show where there's so much visual information in front of me. It takes it'll take time to get used to things. For people who are just turning in for the first time, the way this show works is we pick a subject to draw. In many cases, it would be a subject from Reddit Gets Drawn, which you can find at reddit.com/r/Reddit Gets Drawn. And our official posts are always in the Artist Lounge subreddit, which is reddit.com/r/Artist Lounge. And we all draw it together, and then we talk about art and burritos and cats, and then we share everyone's art. So you'll see there's a chat on the side of Twitch. You can say hello to fellow artists, and we all make art together. And then you will notice that in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, we are scrolling through some art. This is art from last week's show and some finished results that we had not gotten a chance to see because we don't always finish during the time of the broadcast. Sometimes drawings take longer than 3 hours to make. So we have that scrolling. You can share your art at through Twitter if you hashtag DAC, and you can also just post the link. Like if you have Imager links, you can post them to the chat, or you can post them in the subreddit in the Artist Lounge, and just let us know. So that way I can save images of it, and then we take a break, and then we can look at the art as we draw live as well. So how have you been?
I was going to say I've been cool, how are you? And then I realised actually I'm in a really bad mood, so... And then I was like, oh yeah. Also I'm writing butt chop in the chat to people, so it's all good.
You the what now?
I wrote butt chop. I was talking to someone about the stream, and I was actually talking to Who Died, and I was talking about how the stream was dropping for some people. And I meant to write, it's a bit choppy, but I wrote butt chopping, so I was writing butt chop in the chat. It does appear to, I'm getting the little spinning wheel of death every now and then, so guys, let us know how it's running for you guys, because it might just be internet. It might not be anything to do with us streaming, it might just be Twitch being a butt face.
Yeah, in my stream it seems to be working. Okay. So hopefully, yeah, that's not across the board with everyone. Let's see. Boop, boop.
Oh my god, Meaty Elbow's already done it.
What? What? No, shut up. We're not even done with the intro yet. Oh my god. Oh, okay. All right. That's good too. He's really like. That's the thing that always happens is I go in and we're all excited and then the artist like set the bar really high and then it makes me nervous right in the beginning, which is good. Meaty Elbow says suck it, Demon Man. So, look out, Demon Man. He's coming after your speed record.
I know. ridiculous. Yeah, okay, let us know if you guys have any sound issues, because sometimes you're cutting out for me, so...
Sometimes I'm cutting out.
Yeah, you're turning into a robot occasionally, and I want to know if that's just me, or if that's everybody, because it might just be my internet, which...
Yeah,
whatever.
you guys got to let me know on that one for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it's occasionally going down for me as well, so hopefully that's not what's happening. Chat doesn't seem to be saying anything, so I'm going to assume it's fine, unless anyone freaks out. Yeah, so people in chat are asking me why I'm in a bad mood. So, I'm in a bad mood because my money is being held at the moment, and it's quite terrifying.
Oh,
that's... So, some people know I'm on Patreon. That's a fairly new thing. But I've become not reliant on it, but like in the past, people who saw my posts on the Ice Lounge know this, but like in the past several months since about Brexit, I've been struggling with money a lot more than I was before. So before I was walking a very, very tight line of like making sure everything was like everything was paying for everything else, if that makes sense. Like conventions were paying for future conventions and stuff like that. So it wasn't really, the art wasn't making like a particular profit, but it was looking after itself and it was keeping itself happy, and it was like that's good enough for now. And then almost all of my like payments are in dollars. So the issue I had was when the pound crashed, all of my payments out became more expensive, and almost all the money I was getting in at that time decreased. So it was like oh god, right? So then I became a little more dependent on Patreon, on the money that was coming in through there. Now, about a week or so ago, I went to check on Patreon because I've been getting some messages from my bank account saying X thing wasn't able to be paid, and I was like, that doesn't make any sense. I should have the money to cover that. And I looked on the Patreon, and it wasn't sending me the money. It was just like holding it. It was like, this is mine.
Oh,
it was like a cat. It's just got it. And I was like, okay. So I like tried to withdraw the money, and it blocked my account, and it blocked the whole of my Patreon account. Really? And it said, you have no access to this, apart from like talking to people and managing that side of it. I had no access to any of the money, and it was like, you're going to get this in like 5 days. And I was like, what? And then I get, today was the 5th day, and it was like, I've been working out, I'm supposed to be going, well, I am going to a convention next week, and I'm flying out for it, so anything I need ordered has to arrive before then, right?
Right.
So I'm like, okay, I can just about make it before my flight on Tuesday. I've just got to make sure I get the money today, I order stuff tomorrow, it arrives the weekend, right? I get an email through today on the day when it's supposed to have unblocked my account and make me have access to it. And it says, we need another form of ID. And I'm like, what? And it's like, it didn't ask for this. It didn't ask for a form of ID. But it's now asking for another form of ID because it doesn't believe that my bank account is me, because my bank account's a business account. So it's under my business name, which is Geyser Inc. So Geyser.com, all of that. So it thinks that I'm accidentally sending it to someone else when it's actually all under my name. It's just that the account itself is my business account. So they're like, we won't send this to you until you send forms of ID. So I've sent forms of ID, and it's like, okay, just work. But then it got so much worse. And this was literally an hour ago that I found out, which is why I'm in a bad mood right now. An hour ago, I found out, I went to log on to my my school website, and I was looking through everything. I was like, why can't I access anything? I was like, everything's blocked. And I looked at my dashboard on there, and everything that I pay for is gone. The whole lot, all of it. Everything that I have a subscription to is completely gone. And I'm staring at it, I'm like, what has happened? All I can assume is that on the days when I didn't have the money in my account, that's when my school asked for my subscription. They didn't get the money. They got like some kind of message that said this account has no money in it, because I hadn't got the money from Patreon when I was supposed to get the money from Patreon. Jesus. So then they've cancelled my account, but they didn't send me any messages at all. Like, I don't have anything that says we attempted to get to your account, you have X amount of hours to get money in your account. Nothing.
Did they even send a confirmation when the account was canceled?
No, nothing. Absolutely nothing. I only found out when I logged on to try and sort some artwork out. And I was like, there's nothing here. What is this? And it must have happened this week because I was working on stuff on, like, Monday. So, like, so I've emailed Patreon again. I've emailed my school. I'm like, someone please.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's awful, and I'm so upset right now. And then literally, I found this out an hour ago, so I'm like, So I've been frantically emailing everyone.
That's the hardest thing, because then it's just kind of like...
I've just got to wait. And just sit here.
Usually, the show turns into us talking about the struggles and going on to the stress as it develops, and then you had to start this episode right in the just like right with that brain, and then shut it off and then be like, hey everybody, art's great, you know. Art's so much fun.
Art's so amazing.
Follow your dreams.
No,
but I guess
think the
it
thing
happens,
is,
you know.
It's obviously I wouldn't care this much if I didn't love my schooling or love the Patreon account. Like, the two things have been massively important to me. That's why I'm so upset. It's like, I wouldn't care this much if I didn't care this much, right? So the reason why I'm like, is because it does mean a lot to me. I do enjoy it, and it does make me happy. I'm not like, I'm not coming out of this like, oh, I hate art, I hate like that. It's just, I hate the fact that the programs didn't do what they should have done. One, it's partly my fault. I should have checked like a month ago to check that everything was working correctly, and I didn't. Right. So that's my fault. But two, I should have got messages. Like, it shouldn't have just... One, there should have been something telling me about how you take the money out of Patreon without it blocking you for an entire week and then needing, like, 2 types of... It didn't tell me any of that, like ID and all that. It didn't tell me that until it had already waited 5 days of having the account blocked. If it had told me in advance, we need XYZ, then I could have just sent it. Could have just been like, here you go, here's all of that stuff, right? And then I wouldn't be waiting for it today. And then the other annoyance is the fact that something's gone wrong, either with my email or with the system or something with the school. That means I haven't had a message. So it's not that I'm annoyed with any of like the people or anything like that. It's just annoying that the programs, the software didn't do what it should have done or something. And it's just like,
Well, and then I guess it's that thing as time's going on, and like, I guess it's as any career develops, but especially in creative fields where you have to take more of the daily general management, like, into your own schedule and take care of it yourself, it becomes that thing where you can't, it gets so hard to manage, like, how do you manage, like, all these little things? Like, that's what I've been struggling this week with. Like, I could totally see how it could be, you know, when you said it must have happened sometime this week, but it's like, it's that thing where, like, you can't possibly stay on top of every single little thing. So then when you do find out, you know,
it's just like, oh my God, why? And I'm sitting here drawing like 10 pages a day, murdering myself.
Yeah, that's still crazy to me that you get 10 pages a day done on top of all this other...
Yeah, I did 10 pages yesterday, and then I did 10 pages of pencils and line art today, and I've got to fill them all in tomorrow morning.
Oh, yeah, that's just nuts to me. See, I was happy just to finish the drawing from last week.
I didn't do that. I would like to, but I can't. That's going to be my homework for school, so I'm like saving that up for when I apparently have a school account again.
Well, and then, well... Admittedly, I did stay up late last night to get it done. So down to the last second. I was like, I could probably finish it in the morning before we go on the air. And then I was like, no, I shouldn't risk that. I should assume that any technical difficulty we could possibly run into will happen the morning of. So I have to leave that morning clear.
Right.
I push everything aside. I had to bring my car into the shop, and then the mechanic calls me this morning, And he was just like, yeah, so we know what we need to fix, but we want to talk to you in person about it. I'm like, oh, that's good. That's a good sign. That's great. We can't talk about it over the phone. And, but I was like, could I make it to the shop and back before? I was like, no, because the printer's going to not work like last week, or something's going to crash, Skype's going to act weird. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. I'm still not entirely convinced right now that there's something that I forgot to do, and at any point I'm gonna go, oh, and like freak out. But I think we're okay. Media Elbow says Mike has car cancer.
The chat is ridiculous right now.
Yeah, I see a lot of people talking about sexy stakes betting.
Anyone who sees this on YouTube and they see me like looking down here with like confused faces, that is chat. Mess with my brain. They're betting on something, and then they try to hide what they're betting on to me, and now it's something to do with chickens with razor blades. I don't know what's happening.
I saw something earlier about people trying to see who could finish, or who could like predict which piece we're gonna do for the show before we do it, which is a nifty game if that's what they're taking bets on. They know what we look for in the pictures, and they know that we usually choose around a half hour before the show goes on the air. It was the reference. It's which reference we're going to be drawing in advance. Who knows? Maybe we'll do a curveball though. Like that week we did the Google Street View landscape series. You never know.
I want to do that again.
That was fun.
I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed that a lot. It taught me so much as well.
Remember that giant bird nest that was like right off to the side of mine? I was like somewhere in the middle of like countryside Poland, like on the street view, and there's just that huge bird nest. It was had no idea. I wish I would have known more about what the hell that was, but there was no chance. Apparently, according to Who Died, I spoil everything, which is usually the how things go. Just in technical difficulties and life. It's just like, yeah, like okay. That's the deficit I have to work from to try to win everyone's love.
We should draw stuff.
Yeah, we probably should. Have we let's see. So, to mention the thread that we are actually drawing, which apparently I closed on accident.
You're a dumb person.
There we go. I do what I can.
It's called Me Doing a Trial Run of a Costume Idea over on reddit.com/r/Reddit Gets Drawn. And it is a lady person with flowers in her hair.
There was a nice photo of a cat with, a cat dressed up, and it was a very nice photograph, but we drew a cat last week. So, that's enough cats for a 2-week period.
Yeah, there were a few pictures I actually quite liked. There were a few very young children that looked really good, but I know that a lot of people have issues with drawing kids, so we'll hold off. We'll warn you guys when we're going to do a drawing kids episode. Yeah,
we're going to be drawing only photos with babies with their foreheads cropped out of frame and really bad lighting, with everything's
Dude, we
backlit.
Did that. I sent one like that to you, and I was like, genuinely, I was like, dude, I only wanted to draw it because it had really good subsurface scattering. So. Oh,
I see how it is. Oh,
okay.
You always try to like torture me with those things. Over. Okay, fair enough. Yes. We can go into art mode now. Oh, yes, and just to clarify, yes, this is what the finished product of last week's episode is that I stayed up last night drawing. It was drying on the Arches pad, which is nifty in case you never knew how Arches blocks work. You then cut the paper off. I use this palette knife, and then it has adhesive on all sides, so that way you can just paint straight on it, and you don't need to worry about taping down paper, and it won't buckle, and it works amazingly well. And unfortunately, these Arches blocks are pretty expensive. They range, depending on size, anywhere usually from around $80 to $150, depending on how large you want it. Comes with about, I think, 25 sheets or something. And the best way to buy it was to wait for Dick Blick to send you a 40% off coupon in the mail. This is for the American audience. But they don't send those anymore, and I'm going to keep calling them out on it because they only send 20% off coupons, and I noticed because that was an expensive downgrade in couponing for me. Don't think we didn't notice. As an artist who's a fan of arches, blocks, and black gesso, I notice very quickly when fewer coupons arrive in the mail.
Yeah. Yeah, I got mine for those in Europa, or I guess London. I got mine from Cassart London. My arches block.
Do they have
I
deals?
don't have sort of. They give you money off coupons to London exhibitions, like seeing the Leonardo da Vinci works and stuff like that. They give you little coupons to go and see those in London, which is pretty sweet. So the way we'll be doing this today is we will have an hour of the show, then we'll have a little break, which will be somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes. Then we will have another hour of the show, then another little break, and then it'll be the final hour where we like chill out and chat and look at people's artwork and stuff. But we're not going to do the same thing that we did last week. Last week we looked at literally everyone's work, which was nice, obviously, but because the show is literally about half of what we used to have back with the Artist Lounge, we can't really afford to spend that amount of time looking at everyone's work. So we're probably going to pick out a few that we want to mention, and if anyone wants to critique when you share your artwork, let us know, and then we'll like pick one or two of those that actually want like specific critiques and stuff. But everyone will have their artwork on screen. We're going to make sure of that. Yeah. If you when you send us your artwork, it'd be really cool if you could put a tag on it that takes someone to your website or your social media or something, because that way we can make sure that everyone goes and finds your beautiful artwork when they see it pop up in the bottom of the screen.
Yeah, that's it.
You guys are amazing.
And to reiterate, we will be your art will get in the show, but we kind of realized the time constraints of being able to talk about every single piece, but also realizing that sometimes people don't want critiques. Like I've run into that quite a number of times in the past, or sometimes like, you know, I mean personally even myself, I don't usually like having too much critique on a piece until it's finished. It just depends on your working process and how you prefer it to go.
Yeah, a lot of people weren't ready during the show because obviously it's a lot shorter than our previous shows. So.
Yeah. So, yeah, we got to take all that into consideration. I think another person finished already.
Too many. I can't accept it. So yeah, we will kind of look in chat, but it's very easy for us to miss them in the chat. So to send us the artwork, go to Twitter or something, a social media that cross-posts to Twitter. Write your message, and then with a link to your artwork, it can be hosted anywhere, including on Twitter itself. And then put hashtag DAC. And we'll be searching through that entire thread to find stuff. Was there music last stream? Yes, there was.
There was music. We had a glitch with the music in the intro, and I think I figured out what it was. I think what had happened is the music runs through VLC, and the intro animation also ran through VLC. So I think sometimes it worked if it loaded at different times, but then when it loaded together, it would sometimes crash, like trying to double load a program. Like if you try to, you know, if you open two instances of Google Chrome by going wild and too much coffee and clicking too much, and then it does that thing where it takes extra time to load and get working. I think that's what happens. So for all you that might have that problem, if you use OBS and your Twitch streams, if you're running multiple kind of different. You need to run like audio through one thing and then video through another. I'm hoping this resolves it to set maybe like Windows Media Player to play the animation or the clip, and then VLC to play the audio. It can run audio files directly, but there's less options. Like if you have it as a video setting to play audio, you can then set it to loop. You can set it to stop on certain scenes and play on any scene that it's in. You just have far more options with the audio than if you try to just run it directly as a audio source. So just a heads up. Also mentioned, Sarah, your little screen has popped up onto your display again.
Oi.
You mentioned from last week, you're like, wait a minute, I've been on camera? It's like, yeah.
This whole time.
Yeah, I think it's the little Skype window.
Why is it not hashtag draw a circle? We could do that. I think it's just because I wanted us to, like, on Twitter, they make you only have like 140 characters or something. I wanted people to, if they wanted a critique or they wanted to ask about a specific thing or they wanted to say, oh, I drew this whilst that blah blah blah. I don't want to take up all their characters with a really long hashtag.
Well, there was also that online meme of like first draw a circle, now draw the rest of the fucking owl. The thing is like there's also the chance if the hashtag is draw a circle that it could pull up a bunch of unrelated images in relation to like that joke. And there's
DAC is used by too many other people.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah, but it won't. But the images, like your art, will stand out from those other. And there's not a lot of posts that pop up with DAC.
I can only see. I can see the odd other thing, but I can only see you guys' stuff popping up. Like I caught everything last week, so.
Yeah, if that ended up becoming a problem down the road, we can always switch that. It's easy enough.
I like DAC Yeah, we mentioned that last week.
Yeah,
that's the actual Twitter account. Yeah, we might change it to DAC.
It could be DAC.
Well, we can't change it if on screen it says hashtag DAC. We've got to change the on screen, otherwise new people will come in midway through and they won't be able to send it. So I'll tell you what, for next week, we'll change it to DAC.
Okay.
Yeah? Okay, cool.
You get to redesign the skin for the show.
Yeah, I get to redraw everything.
I just want everyone to know, anything you need to change on the visual art side of the program, just feel free to make as many changes as you want, because that becomes Sarah's responsibility and I don't have to deal with it.
Although, to be fair, you deal with like so much stuff this time around. I don't have to do anything. I just draw everything and I'm like, there we go, done.
Oh, you lucky. But in all due fairness, I felt like a lot of the pre-production was way more on your end, before the show started. Like pretty much the whole design of everything, all those visual elements, anything you see on Twitch that's a visual element of it, any aspect of pretty much in OBS that you see, and then everything else was me just moving screens around, which is not too shabby. Though took a little while. The thing is I don't mind OBS. I know I've seen some people mention that they wanted to start some streams and they were having some trouble with it. It's a little rough at first. It's very different
on Mac than
Oh, it is?
It is very different. I've struggled with it on Mac.
Because at first it was pretty bad, but I came to find over time that it was... Like, once I kind of got the hang of it, I'm like, okay, I can do things quickly. But there are a lot of features that, like, I see, and it's kind of that thing where it's like, I have no idea what this does,
Yeah.
Like, especially when you're messing with audio settings, and there's all these little... There's just so many little things. And, I don't know, anytime I see that, I'm like, okay, and it's the kind of thing where you don't just have, like, select this, or this. It's like, it's just the blank box, and you're just supposed to, like, put in... Like, I understand what these numbers should be, and you have to just put it in, and it won't ruin everything. But that is not... I do not have that knowledge, so I try to stay as far away from those aspects of it as possible.
Yeah, it's like the more you mess with, the more there's things that could go wrong that you don't know how to fix.
Right. And then it's that thing, like, I don't want to mess with too many things at once, because then I might end up changing something and I won't remember what it was. And then I won't be able to find it, Like, that's kind of what scares me the most, is like crashing, because OBS also does this thing where it just kind of when you open it, I should also clarify that OBS is open broadcast software, and it's what it's used for is pretty much how you see the show right now. It is the software used to record and stream to Twitch, and that's what we use for this show. And anyways, it kind of just saves. It pretty much just saves like right where you left off without clicking. Like, you don't like save. I thought there's a save scene option, but what that does is it only saves the settings. It doesn't save like your layout or all your scenes and sources that are there. It'll just save like what channel you're streaming to, and like the behind the scenes settings. So if I were to do multiple, as far as I can tell, if I were to do multiple shows in OBS, I would have, my scenes list would just be even bigger. Like, I already have like 16 scenes in there or something. And so if I did another show, it'd be like another however many scenes. And so, and this show's scenes would be, I could accidentally click on those too. Like, I can't save like separate accounts, which, by the way, if I can do that, please let me know, because that would be really helpful. But as far as I can tell, you can't. So on one hand, it's nice because everything's there right where you left off. You can't really lose progress by not saving. But on the other hand, it's kind of rough because you kind of have to deal with where everything was when you last opened the software. So that's why sometimes when we start the show, it can like... You guys can't hear the fun part where I'm just sitting there like talking out loud. Talking to myself out loud to Sarah.
Right,
like, okay,
so
I did
weird.
this. I did this. This is like this. This is like this. I have this setting here. This should be fine here. And I have to just run through it. I sound like a total psycho, but you know, that all being said, I've been enjoying it. I've actually been having a pretty good experience with that software so far. And I don't know. I mean, open source software can be a real crapshoot. Like, some of it can be pretty amazing, and sometimes it can just be so buggy.
I apologize if you hear my mum coughing in the background. She's like, I have a cough, like miming at me. I'm like, dude. So I have a question.
Uh-huh.
I have a question. Did you see the post in the Ice Lounge this week?
That's
Do you know what I'm referencing?
That's a very vague question.
There was a post in the Ice Lounge this week.
Mm-hmm.
I think it must have been this week, 'cause it's still up. About art and vanity. Did you see this?
Oh, I started briefly like reading that last night, and then I didn't have a chance to, but I saw it got like downvoted, and I thought it was weird to see a text post get downvoted, and I was wondering like what's going on.
I think I know why it got downvoted.
Oh, okay.
I think it got downvoted because it sounded very elitist.
Oh God.
I think that's why. That's not me making a judgment on the person writing it. I just think some of the wording, particularly at the beginning, before it evolved into the actual discussion, I think it would have set people off.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, I saw that post. It took me 4 times before I could read it.
Really?
Yeah, because one, it's like 4 scrolls on a iPhone screen. It's like, it's the longest post I've ever seen. It's like longer than the replies you used to give to me on Reddit.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it sounds like how I usually was in the lounge, where I write, 9.5 pages of stuff.
Yeah, but I think also I disagreed with a lot of it as fundamental views of art and like the world of art, and I thought that was really interesting. Like I had to force myself to read through it because I wanted to hear someone else's point of view.
Wow.
But it found me so hard. I found it so hard to sit through because I must have a very different interaction with the art world. So I'm not going to give a brief overview of what it was. I'm going to bring up some individual points, but not say what the other thing is, because I don't think you can condense that. I don't think you can condense that entire discussion. It's so long and not in a good way, says Who Died Hard.
But it's also probably a thing where if you tried to summarize it could recontextualize
it would ruin
too much.
Yeah, it would. I think if I tried to summarize it, it would change the meaning of what the person wanted to say. Because I feel like the whole point of what they were saying was in relation to their own context. Like their own context of how they view art and how they've experienced art. So they had this, like, it would begin with, this is my experience in art, and this is these are the qualifications that I've got and stuff like that. And then it would go into, here are my opinions on the art world, and this is how I view modern artists in relation to historical art. So it went on a journey. So I don't think any individual like snippet of it would tell you about the whole thing. So I'm not even going to try. But there was a few things that I wanted to bring up that were inspired by this post, but only because I wanted to make sure that people realized there was another side. It wasn't because I disagreed with this person, because clearly they have been in a part of the art world where people are negative, or people are only fighting for attention and stuff like that. That's basically what it was about. There was like different sections of it, but the two bits that jumped out at me was that, one, the art community was very negative to them for various different reasons, and two, there was, in relation to vanity, they were saying that a lot of modern artists are kind of like only doing what they do as a way of getting money or fame or success, instead of doing it for art's sake, if that makes sense, right?
Okay.
And read the post if you want to get the context around that. But that's kind of my interpretation of what they were trying to say. And I wrote down a few notes because my experience is very, very different to theirs.
Right.
I think the first thing I wanted to say in relation to this person was talking about how certain art, in particular, they were talking about, I think, this is my interpretation of it, they spoke about these digital art pieces that no one can do. And I assume that means the like classic digital paintings of a pretty girl, that kind of thing, right? The classic stuff you see on like DeviantArt, Reddit, that kind of thing that jumps up. And they were calling these the most popular pieces of artwork very gaudy or tacky, and saying that they were only being made for attention stuff. I wanted to say, make whatever artwork you want, right? I like drawing pretty things, right? And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's okay to draw stuff even if it is popular or overdone, or this is, I'm 14 and this is deep. Like, even if it hits all of those tropes, draw it if that's what you want to do, right? Because I think that you should draw anything that makes you feel good. I think anything that you enjoy, no matter what the stigma is to it, and that goes for, like, every time I see a post on Reddit or something where someone mentions that they're a furry, right? That they draw furry art, so they draw anthropomorphic animal characters, right? That's what I mean by that. I don't mean like fetish art or anything like that. I mean anthropomorphic animal characters, like Sonic the Hedgehog or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
They mention that they do that, and then they ask for critique. They ask to get treated like an artist, and they aren't. And I know where that's coming from. I know where the kind of elitist douchiness is coming from, but can we treat other artists like artists? If they ask for advice, or if they decide to share their artwork with each other, I would say, don't be a douchebag to them. I think if you don't like a particular type of artwork or genre or style, that doesn't make it bad.
Yeah.
In the past, I have looked at the very, I wouldn't say traditional, to me it feels traditional, it's very, very, very modern gallery work, right? That you see in like the Tate Modern or something.
Right.
To me, I always used to see that as rubbish, what's the point, blah, blah, blah. And this person was saying about the modern digital paintings, they were saying they said something like, what's the point in existing if this is what art is? And I'm like, no, it doesn't matter. You don't have to look at it. If you don't like it, look somewhere else. And that's not just to this person. I've seen this repeated on like every art forum I've ever seen. Like, you will see someone post a piece of artwork, it gets like 500 upvotes, it ends up on the front page of Reddit, people love it to bits, and you go into the comments and every single comment is saying that they hate it and that it's overdone and it's like, why? That's not critique as well. Like, one, it's unsolicited critique, which we've spoke about, although not on this show, but like we know that there's mixed feelings about that to begin with. But on top of that, it's not a critique to say I don't like this. That's just an opinion, and I mean, free speech, whatever, do whatever you want. But I think you don't have an authority on something just because you don't like it. I think that's what I'm trying to get at. You aren't better than someone, or your opinion isn't more important than someone because you don't like something. I would say that there were some very good points in that post, but it hit me a little bit on a level because I see something very similar said over and over again in regards to artwork that I personally enjoy. Like, I really like digital paintings of pretty girls and cool fantasy animals and landscapes where there's like that girl walking in the corner with the white dress. Like, we joked about this in the past, right?
Yes, my favorite, as you know, my favorite.
Exactly, and it's okay to like or dislike it, I think, and it's okay to critique it. It's okay to say, this is I don't know, like you might say it's very well executed, but the concept is overdone or is done frequently. But the way it comes across from a lot of people is you shouldn't be doing this. You are wasting your time. You are flooding the world with useless artwork. And I don't believe that.
Oh,
Yeah, do you see what I mean?
Oh,
like,
they don't have a right to make... No artist has the right to determine single-handedly what the entire art world needs.
Exactly.
The thing is I gotta really read this in more detail. But I could understand
and don't
a
take
person's
everything
frustration.
I'm saying. Yeah. Don't take everything I'm saying on just this one person, because it's really, really not. It's more that this sparked me remembering these same thoughts said in a lot of different places. So I don't want, for the love of God, please, can people not like go and attack this person or anything like that, because I think it's important that people have conversations. I think it's important that people say what they feel and then they can discuss it and people can come to their own conclusions. So don't think that this person's like a terrible person or anything like that. It just made me think of a few different things I wanted to make sure that particularly younger artists knew. Like, draw what you want to draw. Be happy. Enjoy it. It doesn't matter if someone thinks it's a lower form of art or it's overdone or a cliche or blah, blah, blah. Just do it because you enjoy it.
Well, and I think it's funny because, I mean, obviously anyone who knows me well enough knows that, like, when I'm in a bad mood, I shouldn't look at art at all. Because I can be just a total dick about art when I'm in a bad mood. Tim can totally vouch for me on that. There are so many times when Tim had to just be like, okay, Mike, let's take a step back here. And I think it's a thing where you start mixing, where your own frustrations in the art world start mixing with your passion, and
yeah, I think that's exactly what it was.
And so when I see posts like that, I hope nobody, because I hope nobody's lashing out at them. Because
I don't think they
because
are.
What ends up happening is, and as a moderator I should really be on top of that in case they are, but what ends up happening is I gotta admit I got a little distracted because I put down my eraser and I have no idea where I put it. I can't find. Oh, there it is. Anyways, what ends up happening is it's almost like their frustration and bitterness is like converting you into that mode. So then if you go on the attack on them hard, pretty much what you're not liking about their approach to art is now how you're approaching art to them. It's kind of like it's like a nice shock and awe tactic. And I feel like a lot of that approach, at least I can only speak in my personal experience, but when it happened to me, I felt like I was taught that way a little bit, that it was something that it was a means of survival in art. Because on one hand, I think what people are confusing is, and this is kind of a lot of genuinely when I'm talking about this is from personal experience. This is not about what they wrote. This is literally from me making similar arguments, and then
right.
a half hour later staring at the ceiling in my bed like, why do I do that? What's wrong with me? Like, why can't I just be happy? It's that thing where
why can't I be happy? That's like your response to everything in art.
it's such a weird, I'm in like the most abusive relationship with art, I swear, but it's the kind of thing where you're kind of taught this way as like a survival thing. To individualize yourself, you need to take your beliefs and then you need to fight with them. Like, and then what you end up doing is you end up fighting anyone else. Like, you start critiquing their work, but from your context and goals, and their work has nothing to do with your context and goals. So you'll be like, oh, I don't like we joke about the the landscape and then the girl in the pretty white dress that's barefoot walking in the field in the landscape. Like, to me, that's always a thing. Like, if I see that in a gallery, I personally will roll my eyes. But that's my own personal experience with it, because I have a set of landscape goals that do not match it. That being said, I shouldn't be critiquing that art on my goals. I should be critiquing that art if it was successful for their goals.
I think that's a really interesting thing to say, because I think we all fall into that trap. I think we all critique stuff knowing what we would have wanted to have done with it, rather than thinking about what was it intended to be. Does that make, like, I think it's very hard to just do a straight up technical critique, because art is so subjective that we want to put our own feelings in it. And when we see something that we think, well, I would have done this, but it's not something technical, it's more an opinion, or maybe it's, I want to say choice of like composition or something, but even that's still technical. It's more about, I would have made it feel in this way, or I would have wanted to have made it like less of a cliche, or like I wouldn't have just drawn a pretty girl. But if the person just wanted to draw their friend who happens to be a pretty girl, then that was the completion of the piece. It's like
we can't, especially I feel like it's becoming this thing where that old way of saying, oh, this is just more of this kind of crap art, this or that.
Yeah.
What ends up happening is we're living in a time where our place in the art world is growing, our exposure in the art world is decreasing, but our set, like our kind of home bases we can find are much larger. So though you may have trouble getting, let's say you're a furry, and you love drawing furries, you go to conventions, you do those things, it's going to be really hard unless you put that kind of, it's going to be hard to get that in the Tate Modern unless you bring it into that context of in relation to that type of fine art culture. But that being said, we spent a long time believing that that's supposed to be our goal. Oh, well, we should be in museums, right? Isn't that where our art should be? And I think this is something I struggle with, but it's starting to be a thing where it's like, well, wait a minute, maybe that didn't need to be our goal, and that I want to make my furry paintings. Maybe they should. I know it's like the weirdest example, but there is so many places.
Because I mentioned it earlier, right?
Oh, is that it was like?
I mentioned it earlier, so now you're
it's just
stuck.
Well, normally it's just something I think about every day. Like I wake up and I think about it, but no, but there's plenty of context to have it and to find it, and there's a home for it. I kind of spent a long time. I learned art with the influence of the quote unquote fine art world. And again, every time I like to clarify, every time I say fine art, that this is not a measure of skill. It is a definition of context. Like that. Yeah. The fine art, the fine in fine art doesn't mean that it's better than anything. It's just that, for lack of a better term.
And I'm glad you clarified that, actually, because I think to a lot of younger artists, when someone says fine art, you think, oh, that's the proper art.
Yeah, that's the art that's in museums and galleries.
Yeah, that's the stuff that actually matters, when in reality it's just another type of art. Do what you want, live your life.
And the thing is if you try to, and we need to like find ways to not say that one context is better or more justified than another. The only reason that I think sometimes we think that museums tend to have a like the reputation is just because they have been around longer. They're a bigger part of history. But just because art is in a museum doesn't necessarily means that it's going to be, we see them as a symbol that they're representing something that should last forever, that this is a part of the culture that's worth preserving. But what we're underestimating is that you can preserve a lot more on the internet, and now that has its own culture, and that kind of means that, well, all it is preservation. It does not need to be as much emphasis on reputation, because I mean the fact of the matter is too is like they have their own problems in their world, their own politics. It can be just as bitter or corrupt as anywhere else or anything online. So when you try to critique something, so going back to that post, that's where this is all going here. They're trying to approach a set of standards that have been applied from one context. Probably it sounds like from more the influence of a kind of the quote unquote fine art world, and they're trying to make it applicable to culture and a thing that is under a completely separate set of kind of guidelines and goals, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And that can tend to lead to a lot of confusion. And unfortunately, I mean, I hope I hope they don't stay in that mode for their own case, because I had even when I first got on Reddit, that's very much, I mean, I could be bad about it now, but I was far worse then. And it did nothing but make things worse for me. Like it made absolutely nothing in my art goals better. And the biggest struggle is, it was always taught to be like, they always tell you like when you're in art schools, like you guys need to be you need to have thick skin and be real, like, you know, sharks for art, and you have to be ready to, you know, they kind of pit everyone against each other. It's not like, it's not as constructive as it can be. Hopefully over time it's changed. That was a long time ago for me, and that was one experience in school. But from talking to people around my age, and you know, in an art school experience, that tended to be a similar scenario. They tend to be very opinionated towards their set of goals, and it's only being applied in that context, and you're really limiting yourself when you buy into that. It's I feel like it really is just kind of a branding war, and you end up being kind of, now we're getting a little bit into my opinion, but I feel like you're being manipulated for that institution's goals, and those goals may not actually be that constructive for your own art career and inspiration.
I think that kind of ties into what the bigger part of the discussion was. There was multiple different things that I wanted to point out. The bigger part of the discussion was about how current artists are kind of making art for the attention, like a performance. Like they're all vying for that, like craving that attention. They're like, everyone else is rubbish, notice me, that kind of thing. And that's me completely over paraphrasing, but like that was the concept. And I thought that was really interesting, because I can see how the online world looks like that.
Right.
And they were saying that basically with how the internet has become a thing, and how technology is the current state of technology, that means that you have this kind of environment where everything's vying for attention, where we're like sitting on our phones trying to get as many likes as possible. And there is an element of that. I agree that there is an element of that.
Yeah.
I find that if I'm in a really bad place, what cheers me up is taking a photograph of the thing that I made, and then I get like 30 likes or something. It's like, yay, I got people like me. I agree. There's like a little bit of that. It's kind of like the selfie of art, right?
Right.
But I also wanted to say, as not against it, but just as an addition, as more context, I think we have an amazing art community right now.
Right.
I genuinely, the art community that I've been a part of is spectacular. One, the Artist Lounge itself is great. I think we lost a little bit of momentum like earlier this year, but it's come back. We're getting everyone talking. It's nice.
Right.
And particularly last year, Artist Lounge was a massive part of like getting me some confidence back. 2, everyone in this stream, how can you not love them to bits?
Yeah, seriously.
Everyone who, and this isn't me doing one of these YouTuber things where it's like, I love you all. This is me, like, we seriously have some amazing artists here whose names I'm seeing fly past my screen, who jump in at random time zones and then make artwork that I don't know how they make, right? They make artwork that is stunning in every medium I've ever seen. And 3, I come from the comic village world. I come from conventions. And when you first start conventions, I can understand people feeling like everyone's fighting for attention. Like there is, you each have your stall, and you're market traders, and you're shouting, you're trying to get attention.
Right.
In reality, that's not what it's like. Once you're there for a little while, you see how bloody supportive that place is. Everyone knows that they have their own market, that each individual artist has their own audience that they're trying to get attention from, and that there is a space for every artist, whatever their technical skill, whatever their genre, whatever they want to create, there is a space for them in the world. It's not like they're taking a space from someone else. It's not like they are pushing other people down so they can get better. When you speak to individual artists, we always, well, I say we always, 90% of the time, we want to help each other, right? You do find the odd bad egg who will kind of like be like, I'm not telling you my skills because then you will steal my powers like kryptonite. or you get the odd person who is like, this style of art is the worst. Like I was sat at a convention and this one guy was standing in front of my table talking to the person next to me, bearing in mind at this time the only stuff I made was manga.
Right.
And he goes, oh yeah, I only make manga because it's easy to do and gets loads of attention. And it's actually awful. And I'm like, you're a dick, right?
You're like, I'm right here, guys. I'm right here.
Yeah, exactly. So those people do exist. Not everyone's the nicest person in the world, but I will say the community of artists is amazing and helps each other work. And if someone doesn't have pound coins because they ran out because everyone showed up with a 20, there's someone who's like, I'll swap you. If someone doesn't have bags to put their artwork in anymore, someone will hand them them. Like, everyone's so incredibly supportive and everyone's so amazing at their own individual thing that I can't believe, I can't personally accept the fact that we live in a negative art world or a negative art community. I can't accept that. Not when I see everything that happens in the comic village world and here. If I didn't have that context, maybe I would think that. Maybe I would look at the way people treat the online, like DeviantArt or something like that, and I would see it as negative. But then I see YouTube, and I see the amount of free education we have, and the amount of art sharing. Like, the fact that someone can just start with digital art nowadays, and they can learn how to oil paint on a tablet, right? Mm-hmm. And they can apply those techniques that have been taught for like thousands of years, that have evolved from cave paintings, and now you can just find it online and you can get a mentor and you can make friends and you can all work together and you can complete your art dreams. To me, that is amazing. Like there were some discussions about how we used to live in a world where there was only a few great artists and they were revered, and how that was better than what we have today. I would never want that. The fact that we have a world filled with amazing artwork, that no matter what you like, it's there, and if you don't like it, find the artwork that you do like. You don't have to like everything. It's okay for people to make stuff you don't like. That's all right.
Right.
I love the fact that no matter what, everyone has what they want in the world, and if it's not there, they can make it. Like, they have the ability to go, I'm going to learn to do that. I don't believe in the whole idea that art and music and stuff is some mystical thing. There's this kind of belief that you are born with it, and only the great talented chosen ones of the North will be able to paint. No, I really love the fact that yes, you can have an affinity for it or something, but you can always find your thing that you are amazing at, and you can learn to do it. You can learn that, you can craft it, and the knowledge is all in there. Like YouTube, Google, everything, right? You can find everything you need in there. Some of it costs money, some of it doesn't, but I don't know, I love the world that we live in. So when I was reading that post, I just couldn't. That's why it took me so many times to get through it, because I just couldn't accept it. I couldn't be like, I couldn't accept that as a world that we live in, because that's not the world that I've seen. And
it's like,
yeah.
I feel like it's interesting because the more we talk about it, I love how with digital art and the digital art world, how it has become, it's a very democratizing kind of medium. Because though the barrier for entry, it might have a little bit of an initial expense, to get a tablet and, a computer. Lots of people are already have a computer. And as far as art expenses goes, one expense buying a tablet is not that bad at all. Like the cost
I mean, it's expensive, but
I mean, it's expensive, but by comparison to the cost of, obviously the cheapest thing is a pencil and a paper, and you can start, but the comparison.
And you can learn so much from a pencil and a piece of paper.
Yeah, like, you could have a whole career that's all just a pencil and paper. You can have an entire art career like that if you really.
Yeah, exactly. If anyone knows Istebrak, Istebrak, right? If anyone knows her, or just look her up, her artwork's fantastic. She learned to draw with a stick and the sand, right? If she can learn to draw with a stick and the sand, you can learn to draw with a pencil and a piece of paper, right? I think we get so hung up on like, well, what brushes did you use, and like how long was it, like blah.
Oh no, yeah.
You can create. I promise you. All of the techniques apply on a base level to every medium. Yes, like watercolor and gouache and oil, they're very different. Yes,
right.
And learning to control them takes time and effort. Like that's understanding your materials, understanding what you have.
Right. But I should mention, do you have a phone ringing right now? Oh, there, it stopped.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Never mind, it stopped now.
That's my phone saying we need to go to break.
Oh. Sorry, I just totally lost my track. I just kept hearing the buzzing.
sorry, no. I was saying that we shouldn't get so hung up on what materials we have or what we have access to.
Right.
Because we have the ability to learn the fundamentals of art at a base level.
Yeah.
We have all the access. Like, if you're able to sit here and watch this stream, you have access to everything you need.
Yeah. Yeah, if you got this if you're this far, then you can get started. But I think what's interesting about in digital art is you have there's so much variety you can approach, like with that tool set. Like once you have that tablet, there is a lot of things, a lot of kind of styles and medium you can do, and obviously when you paint you can do that too. But the more types of medium things you explore, the more kind of exponential your costs start getting, like almost immediately. And that can be a huge benefit of digital art that I kind of get sad that sometimes the fine art world really doesn't think about that for all the kind of moral high ground it tends to take. I get pretty upset that it doesn't think about that aspect, that for someone who's more of an artist on a budget, it is an incredible avenue for them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it really is. Like, the fact that I can sit here and if I were to learn it, I could probably do like, it's not a oil painting, but I can imitate with a certain level of being held back most mediums.
Right.
On this. Whatever feeling I want to get across, I can probably do it on this tablet. No, it's not going to be the same as a straight up oil painting, and no, I'm not going to have exactly the same experience as an oil painter. There's a massive different actual experience there. But as someone who can't afford to spend thousands of pounds on tiny little bottles of oil paints, this is amazing, right?
Yeah, there's kind of as someone who's made the investment into oil paints and building a studio, for me to finally have an art studio, I literally had to like start a business with 3 friends so we could get a building and then have to deal with renting it out to 10 people. You know what I mean? Like, that was so we could have our own art studio as well. Like, it took a certain, and though what can be nice is almost that, like, it takes that level of commitment. Like, when you commit that far, it's like when you join the gym, you're like, I need to go, I'm paying for a membership. Like, you're committed, and that's nice, but it is absolutely miserable it can be miserable to try to get going, and at the same time, it puts a huge disadvantage of people that might not have those resources,
Yeah.
And then your whole art world is pretty much critiquing on something that a lot of it can fall down to a matter of resources. That's why I tend to be drawn to art that can speak loud with very few resources. Like, every now and then I can go to a show and it'll be just large works of pencil, but they're on like smaller panels. They just join together and make a big, beautiful piece, and you're like, that's awesome. Like, that's something that literally, I think of like, like that movie Pollock. Granted, it is a movie, so you gotta take anything with a grain of salt. But the idea when he had to make a big painting in his apartment, he just sledgehammered a wall down in his apartment so he could put the painting through it and fit it inside. Like, like it's that kind of thing. Like, how far can you push the resources you have?
Yeah.
But there's not enough of that kind of emphasis. I feel like sometimes in the fine art world, sometimes it's I feel like it can, in my personal experience, it can lose a lot of kind of ground in that it tends to immediately it can be an immediate reward for huge canvases. Oh, it's a huge painting, they must be a professional. It's like, that doesn't mean it could be a huge bad painting, but for some reason when we see a big painting, we immediately associate it with professionalism. I see it a lot. It tends to be a big thing with that. I notice it with abstract art. Abstract art, like, is very...
Oh, yeah.
The barrier for entry for abstract art is very low, but to do abstract art well, it's a lot like how I feel about photography. To do it well is incredibly challenging. And, but when it's done well, it can be absolutely mind-blowing. But what ends up happening is you can see a lot of abstract art that's these big dramatic canvases and all the paint and everything, and it would be an expensive painting to make, but it is not necessarily a good painting or an effective painting. But God bless them. I feel bad. I feel like culturally it's becoming increasingly more difficult to be an abstract artist, because art is... we live in a world that visually, like, representational stuff speaks so much more volumes. It's especially when so much of an art career has to be increasingly more based on social media.
It's really weird though, because both ends of the spectrum get a ton of hate, right? So,
right.
Well, hate, but like, I think one end gets a lot more like straight up hate. I think the super hyper realistic gets mega hate.
Yeah,
right?
It's total hate.
They're like, well, why didn't you just take a photograph, right?
Yeah. Like, they think there's no concept behind it, but
it's like, what's the point? Why did you bother, right? That's the response that art gets. And then on the flip side, you have super like abstract artwork, and it's like, I don't know what it's meant to be. What is this? It's not. A 4-year-old could have painted it, right?
Yeah.
So you've got those like two extremes.
Mm-hmm.
Everything, like, if those are two extremes, and this guy is hyper realism, I feel like this lot does very well, right? So towards the hyper realistic area, but still with an element of stylization.
Right.
I feel like that's the sweet spot right now. That's where everyone's like, oh my god, it looks like Disney art and it's the best thing in the universe. And I think that's really interesting, because I feel like you can go back in time and it changes. It like moves on that scale.
I'm trying to think, like, I don't know, it seems like what certain medias are kind of more kind of geared towards their context, it just makes me think a lot about like where art can go, and where I feel like the same upset that's happened to like the music and I've said this before, but the music and the film industries and everything, where the internet kind of turned the industry upside down. That kind of happened with art, but not completely. I still feel like that change is gonna happen. I'm increasingly thinking in that regard that I'm really, well, more and more I'm wondering what the role of the gallery is going to be in the future.
Yeah.
I can't honestly say that I'm going to miss it. That's from my own
we
personal
spoke about
experience,
this previously. We were speaking about how there seems to be a push towards the experience rather than just the straight up
right.
art.
I have my friend Alyssa, who I think I maybe mentioned her. I really should try to get her on the show, but she had she was kind of the first one pointing that out, because we were talking about in the kind of idea of social networking, and it was that thing. It was like generationally, like people they want an experience, which brings a lot of context to this show. This show is an art experience. It's the reason I also format this show this way. There's like while we were doing this show, that's why we put so much emphasis on kind of there being conversation, it feeling like you're here and you're hanging out with friends, more so than you're just watching art being made or just
it's not like we're sitting here doing like some kind of like a speed draw or something. We want to chat, we want to hear opinions,
and we didn't want it to be like, don't want it to be just kind of in the background. It's kind of in the way, like if you ever go to like a draw night with friends, like sometimes like there's drink and draw nights at bars or coffee shops. It's that kind of thing. Well, while you're there, you're engaged in a moment with a community, and so that was kind of the goal of the show, is to simulate that environment while you're either at home or work. And so there's a certain participatory element to it. And I think that's part of that idea, that I think if we can connect with that idea that people want an experience and not just content alone, hopefully it approaches that idea. I think so. But I remember having a conversation. I was getting everything ready for Twitch, and I put a lot of emphasis like getting music for this show together. Now, granted, a lot of the music, it's just kind of in the background, and for music people that could be really annoying that we're talking over this music the whole time, which is why I upload the mix separately up to Mixcloud, because then if you want to hear it, you can. But it was also that thing is like when you're hanging out with friends and talking, there's music playing, and I remember one of my friends saying, well, why have it? Because people want to listen to their own music. And in my head, the first thing I kind of think is like, I don't want them listening to their own music. And I meant that in a way where it's not like I don't want them to hear their own music, but I want them to be I want this to be like a full engagement in this spot here. So it's kind of like it's like going to a friend's house and there's just the music playing, and you spend you don't sit there kind of thinking, well, I want to hear this or this. Like, now there's a setting, there's an environment, there's a certain kind of experience you can associate with the show right here, and then that's kind of that goal. That's what I hope that works.
Yeah.
But I want it to be. It's like a kind of a more fuller experience. If there's one thing I've kind of seen on Twitch, and it's something I want to address, because obviously we want to be able to just do other streams, or if we're having episodes where we're not always around, and we can just run the show individually. I didn't want it to fall into a thing where if someone were to see the show, all it is it's just one person, that it's just quiet, and then they're just kind of like randomly talking at a chat, but there's not. But they just kind of are responding to questions that you can't hear be asked. Because it's a very weird environment. I don't know if anyone else has this environment, but has anyone else gone through, and then you kind of have those... You feel like you're kind of, I guess in its own context, it could be kind of interesting, but you're almost like, you're just like listening to a person talk to themselves while they're drawing. It's really bizarre. Like, it just...
Dude, I listen to YouTube all day. I listen to vloggers constantly.
Well, but usually there's kind of like a subject or a show, maybe not always, but there's something happening. Like I get it more with maybe gaming because you're engaged in like a game and there's the element of the game happening. But I feel like in the creative sense, it's really weird for artists, and I feel like there's still a bit of a bridge to cross where I don't know, like you can watch it and people can talk, but it's still, I don't know, maybe I'm old. Am I old? Is this just weird to me? But it's like
No, I know what you're talking about. I think maybe perhaps you're more sensitive to it than I am.
That could
just
be it.
Because, I'm the freak here. I listen to like 20 hours. Like no, that's ridiculous. I listen to about 8 hours of YouTube a day. So, like,
what would you listen to though? Like what are the shows that you listen to on YouTube?
It's mixed. So a lot of it's gaming.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're talking about the game. Like for example, I've been listening to Giant Bomb's Shenmue playthrough.
Right.
And like they just talk to each other. It's just them talking about life. They just happen to be playing a game at the same time. It's like, or like Terraria or Minecraft. It's like the game is just a setting for them to exist in. It's not the thing. Like it's like this, but they happen to be playing a game. They're not. There's no topic. They happen to be talking about burritos or something. It's like whatever. Then I listen to a lot of art stuff, like KNKL. He does both tutorial stuff and also like I want to say like mental health, but in relation to art. It's like he talks about thinking positively and how to approach different like struggles you would go through in art and stuff like that. So I guess that's kind of like life coachy.
Yeah.
So I listen to loads of stuff, really.
I mean,
some of it is just like randomness, some of it is with a topic.
I mean, I guess in that regard, like I'll listen to, you know, like Bill Burr's Monday morning podcast, and I'm sorry, I hate it sometimes when I see the show and I see like my big head come drifting over my drawing. It's like, oh god, I gotta sit back when I draw. That's like covers the whole screen. But I will listen to that, and it is just him, like sometimes just like laying in his hotel room bed, just talking to his microphone. But in the same regard, he's also like a professional comedian, so he just kind of keeps going and riffing. And then I think what on one hand is really fascinating is when it's just an artist who's usually not used to talking to people, just like kind of randomly talking about just finding anything to talk about, but they're not used to like as much just to like addressing an audience. You know, for most artists, however comfortable you might be, you know, just socializing and talking, most artists are not prepared usually to just talk to an audience and not have them respond back. I know I wasn't prepared, like, and for the last season we had to do that, like that was hard, you know, and I didn't listen back on those episodes because I was like, oh my god, I can't imagine what that must have sounded like. But
do you mean the ones where you were on your own?
Yeah, like we've each had that instances where we've had to be on our own and just kind of be like, well, here we go, you know.
What's up, world?
Hey, everybody, I'm just going to talk for a while about whatever I'm thinking about while drawing, you know.
Yeah, no, that's hard. That is really hard.
Well, and I get self-conscious because it's like, well, why would anybody, it feels like you're taking a super selfie. Like you pulled out like a 7-foot selfie stick with like a giant camera on the end of it, like in a very public place. And you're like, here we go, you know. It's just, it feels so weird. It's like, why is someone listening to me ramble to myself? Like, what right do I have to introduce these thoughts into their life? I that's I think, I don't know, and I can never tell, like, I don't know. I just can't tell sometimes. Like, am I just an old man? Am I becoming an old man? Like, things start. I mean, you get older, things start looking weird to you.
Yeah.
You know, you start like you can't keep up with the memes as much anymore. You're just like, I don't. And then someone's like, we don't even do memes anymore. And you're like, oh god, how far behind am I? You know.
You got people being like, small pepper and all that. And you're like, what is this?
Being like, what?
You don't even know, dude.
What did you just? I didn't hear.
Small pupper, and then
a doggo and a pupper.
Yeah.
Yeah, a doggo, just a big pupper.
Yeah.
I actually like those phrases. I think they're kind of
I really
adorable.
like it. You know, have you seen Rare Puppers, the subreddit?
Why is that? I feel like I know the name, but I can't think of what it particularly
It's just that
is.
meme, but constantly, and it's amazing. It's just like gifs of like dogs doing dumb stuff, but I don't see it anywhere else, so it's amazing. It's like, look, these are gifs that aren't on Facebook yet.
I gotta go to that. I've been like, the ones I've been enjoying is my two favorite subs, I think, right now are Mall Ninja Shit, which I think is completely hilarious. You gotta just.
I hope that's what I think it is.
It is like every mall had like that knife store in it where it tried to have like really cool knives, but it's super nerdy. So it is just a subreddit dedicated to every. Like all those ridiculous knives you would see like in the back of magazines. I remember there was a comic book shop in Utah that had like a knife store in it. Like there's that weird fascination people have with like, yeah, I'm like a warrior now. And I remember being a little kid and like junior high being like, that's the coolest knife ever. Like
that was definitely me.
So it's all dedicated to that, which is just hilarious. And then I also love people fucking dying, which is really funny because it sounds it sounds horrible, but all it is people like it's like pretty much real basic fail gifts, but but it's everyone just like exaggerating what's explaining it makes it sound so stupid. You really should just go look at it, but it's funny and it's not how it sounds. But I don't know. God, Mall Ninja Shit, that is just the funniest. I think it's also just that reminds me of such a particular time and place. Like, I remember the knife store in my local mall, and I remember they'd have, like, those knives with, like, brass knuckles around the end and, like, these ridiculous blades. I don't know. I don't even know how it stayed in business as long as it did. I remember there was a store that was literally, like, a joke shop, and they sold joke posters and little pranks and pewter dragons, and then they made keys. And that store lasted the entire lifespan of the mall.
Everyone has that shop.
How do they last? Who buys? I remember like being a kid, like I buy like a $3 prank. I probably would be the only customer all day.
I guarantee they're running off of the key thing.
Yeah.
I guarantee it. Everyone needs keys. Everyone at some point loses their keys.
There's a shoe
and
repair
there's, like,
shop.
enough people.
Yeah, there's a shoe repair shop next to me that makes keys, and that is like...
Yeah, we've got that in our little town. Yeah.
Maybe that's the secret. Maybe this whole time I should be making art, and my studio should have a key machine in it, and I can just make keys for people when we have an open studio.
We've cracked it, guys.
Oh my god, I would so do that. If I had a key machine, I would so have that in my studio, and it would just be, here, you buy art, or I can make a copy of your house keys for you. Oh, I want to do that now. I wish a key machine wasn't so expensive. I know it's probably like 40 grand or something.
Well, you can make it a piece of art in its own right. You can say that it's like experience art or something, whatever it's called, you know?
I could definitely make that a tax write-off if there's a performance element to it.
Yeah, performance art, right? Like the people who made the fake Starbucks that actually like everything worked. You make like a kit and you're like, it's for art. It's fine.
Well, knowing how I am though, I could see that being completely I could see my whole life changing where I'm just suddenly like, I'm into keys now. Like I'm just researching keys. I'm going to like whatever the key collecting website is. I have my account. I have like 3,000 keys on my want list, and I'm just like all obsessive trying to get my friends into new keys.
Oh my
being
God.
snobby about it. This show suddenly has half of it's about keys.
That girl explained said, don't be silly, you have to join the Keymasters Guild or else the Key Mafia will come and take up your machine.
Oh my god, I didn't even think about that.
If anyone could use key machines, then it would flood the market like diamonds.
Yeah, and taxi cabs, even though, Uber changed that, but yes. I can't flood the diamond market. I don't know. I'll bring it though. You know what, though? I shouldn't, because clearly the guys that are going to be with the keys are going to have their crazy knives. And so they're going to show up with knives. Probably one of them's going to have a pair of nunchucks that they try to convince their friends that they know how to use. And it's going to be an intense battle. They'll throw a pewter dragon at me.
On that note, on our intense battle, I think we need to go to a break.
Right. It's time. Everyone, if you if you're not getting the Twitter thing going, or if you have art to show, throw it in the chat. And I can start
What?
putting
No, don't
that
say
together.
that.
What? Why not?
Because if they put it in the chat, that means we have to search through the entire chat. And if I refresh the page, it loses the whole chat.
Oh, that could be bad then. Yeah, don't do that. Put it in the... Don't put it in the chat.
That's exactly the whole point. That's why we set up this entire thing.
I know there's a Twitter thing, but...
Twitter.
Alright, send it to Twitter. Fine, do it. I just remembered last time people were saying, like, I don't Twitter how what.
I don't get it. No, I know, but guys, figure it out. I believe in you. If you can paint a picture, you can work out Twitter.
Alright, send it to Twitter. Just do it. Put it in Twitter.
Okay.
It's for your own good.
To share your artwork, yes, watermark it so that your little name appears in the bottom right.
Yeah.
Share your artwork on Twitter under hashtag DAC. You do not need to tag anyone or anything like that. Don't ask me, how do I tag? No. Just hashtag DAC with a link to your artwork, and it can be hosted on anything, including Twitter itself. If you want a critique, because we can't talk about every single piece of artwork, if you really want a critique on your artwork, say in your message that you want one. We'll have everything on screen, but we might not be able to talk through everyone because there was so much artwork last week and we've got such a short show. So send your artwork through. We'll start sorting that out during this break. We'll also have another break soon, and then everyone should have had their artwork on screen. Awesome.
All right. Going to break. We'll share it. We'll check it out. Be back soon, everybody.
Bye.
Peace. Okay, welcome back. We got everything organized. We have everything sorted. And we should have everyone's art ready. If we did miss anything this time, there is one more break. And that way we'll be able to show it then. So...
yeah, the next break will be at past.
Exactly. I'm going to get some things ready over here. I have to... as always, and I forgot to turn that down. Give me one sec. All right, we're good. So,
You're right.
yeah. This is just one of those parts that takes a moment.
Okay.
Bear with me, people. I just fight with my computer in this minute, so this aspect is not seamless. Maybe I'll edit it out before it goes to YouTube. Okay, here we go. Switching to the full screen. This is art by Kikitron, and this had been finished pretty early into the show, not too long after Meaty Elbow's piece, his first piece, came in, and then he had a second piece he wanted us to look at. This looks like a pen and ink. Isn't this just a hot press paper there? Is that watercolor? You had to give me a little bit of a break here. I have a lot of sunlight on my screen at this angle. It's really beautiful brush art. And
yeah, it looks very watercolory. Actually, no, I was thinking of someone else. Yeah, no, it looks very watercolory. I like what they've done with the flowers. They evolve a lot on the right-hand side of the picture.
Yeah, it was like I didn't. I'd be curious to kind of hear why people chose one picture over the other. I had chosen the other picture due to the angle of the face, but it's kind of funny because I kind of liked how the hair and the flowers were in this one. And it kind of really shows in this piece how you can kind of capture the movement with the hair a little more in this photo, because it kind of makes a swirling effect with the ear and the left cheek. And so the way you can compose that can add a lot of movement to the piece. And to be honest, I didn't really notice it until I saw this piece, because of the brushwork was kind of has kind of that lyrical quality to it that swirls around the page. That's really nice. And this was Meaty Elbow's piece. This was not the first piece that had just finished. He redid it and submitted this one, which I thought the first one was good too. To be honest, I had lost that in the chat, so I couldn't show it, but this one was particularly beautiful as well. If anyone has any questions regarding Meaty Elbows technique, you can find it in our previous show's subreddit. There's a post discussion, which we have after every show at the Artist Lounge subreddit, reddit.com/r/artist lounge. And there we can kind of share our techniques and ideas. And he had shared particularly his how his palette evolves between pieces. And it'd be interesting. You could probably look between this and his older work and see which colors stay and which kind of blend. And he just works very directly with warm and cool palette. Particularly good control of the brushes on the eyebrow, nose, and then through the edge of the mouth to the side of the cheek. It's very kind of a subtle shape there that's very, very hard to catch. This was the one I'm working with, and to be honest, this is actually a very difficult photo to also get the shape of her face, because though the contour is there and strong, the original source was a little bit like washed out, and so it was really hard to get the structure in there. So to kind of make those bold decisions on the face is actually really tricky, just in general, and it was particularly difficult with this photo.
I'm actually finding the color palette really hard. I've noticed that Meaty has changed the color palette over to a green,
right? Whereas
to me it's a lot more. Maybe it's just because she's got the purple lipstick, so I'm moving towards that. But it feels a lot more bluey purple to me, and I'm really struggling with trying to capture that.
You know what the other kind of thing that's interesting, I didn't even think about it, is especially with any things with color in regards to the reference. You got to let me know, because I'm looking at a black and white version of the photo as I work on my black and white drawings. I'm also red-green colorblind, so I am not the person to be giving out a lot of color advice. I could tell you how I see it, but it might not. If you're looking for accuracy, I'm not the guy to talk to. But I can give you a general sense if the palette is harmonious with the colors within the palette itself. There's Ryan Sheldon art, which always, I can't remember from before, but does Ryan Sheldon work from, because it always seems like there's digital elements, but there's also a very like dry material look to it, and I can never tell when I'm looking off my monitor if this was actually a digital piece with like dry brushes in Photoshop, or if this was actual mixed media, or if it was mixed media that was scanned and then worked digitally on top of. But this looks...
Right. Yeah, I think he told us last week. Remind us.
Yeah, send a reminder out there.
This is a work in progress as well.
Oh, okay. It's good to know. Admittedly, I won't be able to see... I can't see the chat right now, so I won't be able to see what the response is. I don't know if Sarah, if you can see the chat then, because I'm on full screen, so I can't read the chat right now.
He says it's all digital.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And Schmoonify says, I love how this looks so much like traditional media.
Yeah, it's kind of blowing my mind. It almost looks like in the upper right corner there's like almost like a coffee ring effect of the way it looks like the spills look so natural, and then and then especially the splattering looks... What I had a lot of trouble with digital, and Sarah, you could probably give people a lot of tips regarding this, is how to make things feel a little more randomized. I kept accidentally making patterns when I used the brushes.
Right. That depends on the brushes you've got. And also, like, you can make your own brushes. I really recommend a book called Digital Painting for Beginners Characters by 3D Total. Ignore the fact that it says for beginners, because what it means isn't that the book's for beginners. It means it's for people who are very good at art but want to do digital painting. So they want to move from traditional media to digital media. So the book expects you to be able to draw anything. It just is telling you how to do it digitally. But one of the parts of that is it teaches you how to make your own brushes. And I just think, buy that book just for the first chapter. Like, the rest of it's really great, but buy it for that first chapter. Because if you are new to digital painting, and you really want to like just know what to do, that first chapter is so worth it. Yeah, if you open a brush menu, I've got it on my wheel. Brush tool, brush panel. There we go. It's down here. then you have access to everything about the brush. And I think the important thing to remember when you're looking at brushes is that it doesn't just apply to painting brushes. Brushes represent any, like, I guess you would call it a reticule for paint, for like that you see on screen. So if someone's looking at my screen, I don't know if you're able to show it, but you have a reticule that represents the stamp that you are going to make on the page. So you can adjust that stamp in here. So you can create your own brush looks. You do that. Look up a tutorial on it. It essentially is you paint a black and white picture, and then you can turn that into a brush, and that will be what you can paint with, and you put it into the brush. Now look up a YouTube channel. It's so much easier to just see it happen. So yeah, I'm kind of like wiggling my hand over, but you can see the giant reticule going smaller and bigger. In the shape, in the tool set, which looks like a little pot with brushes sticking out of it, and it says brush, you have access to all the individual brushes, and down here you can see an example of what they're going to look like. If you did like a wiggly stroke, you can change the size of it in here. You can change the angle. So if you have where is it? Do I have it in here? If you have like a straighter brush, this is super useful because you can turn the angle of it. And I think, Mike, you would find this super useful because you're used to traditional painting. So you want this on your screen so that you can pretend you have a brush. So if I bring up a new panel that's painted in an obnoxious pinky red color so everyone can see it, I can make my brush like this big, and I can make a stroke like that, right?
Right.
Then I can turn this to face a different direction and make a different stroke. I feel like you would be used to that. One of the things that I was taught in school to do is to go over your reference image, make sure, one, that your reference image and your painting are the same size as each other. Then you can turn your brush to find the angle you want. Maybe I want the angle of this eyebrow on the right of my screen. So I can turn it. Oh, I've gone too far. And what I'm doing here is I'm squidging it. So I'm like squidging my paintbrush here, which does different things. I don't actually want to do that right now. Right, I've got the angle there. I'm kind of like holding it up. I don't know if you can see that. And I can make it smaller to get the exact size of that eyebrow there, go across onto my reference image, and then literally just draw it, right? So the idea would be that you are using sight size, pretending that you are holding the end of your paintbrush up to each object so that you get the exact size. So that's what you would have done in traditional media, and it's about translating it across. Within this menu, you have shape dynamics, which change if you... Let's find a brush that will show this better. The base brush, okay. Shape dynamics. This changes the minimum diameter, so you're making it end in a point or end in like a blob. So you just play around with this. If you've never used these kinds of things, just mess around with it, see what you can make. And remember that you can apply this not just to what you're painting, but also to your eraser and your blending tool. So if you want to use the blending tool, personally I don't use it, but if you want to use it, which is the smudge tool over here, make sure you have scattering on. If you don't have scattering on, it does some gross ass, like, you can't even see it because it's not even strong enough right now. Wait, let me just turn strength up. 100%. Okay, this is gonna look awful, right? So it does this gross thing, right? It just like pulls.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's just like pulling it along, right? If you click scattering on, then it does this, right? So now it's like mixing them. If I had a different color, it'd be more obvious, right? Let me do that, and I'll go back to my smudge tool. Now, can you see how they're like blending? If I turn strength down, it will look softer.
Oh, okay,
yeah,
right.
Yeah. Whereas if that scattering is off, which it is by default, it just kind of pulls it. So it's just about learning what is within this little box here, this little tool set. And I think you can learn this just by messing around. You can learn it from Proco, has some great videos. My school, Oatley Academy, well, not my school, but the school I go to, Oatley Academy, actually features some of his videos and uses some of those and their own to explain how to do it. So Proco is a great YouTube channel. But really, honestly, I really liked that book, 3D Totals, Digital Painting for Beginners, Characters. I really liked that book because the first chapter is just dedicated to you and Photoshop and making sure that you understand everything that's here. And all the like super quick things that just make life easier, I learned from that. Yeah, hopefully that is helpful.
I bet you everyone got lost. No, I'm just kidding. That's is the thing is every time there's I don't know how many people think like stuff could be new to them, but like to me that stuff's like it's all new, and so it's kind of the thing. Like I know on my tablet there was a thing where it's supposedly you could twist the stylus and it will turn the brush, but it does not work very well. So knowing that I can just kind of angle it how I want.
Yeah, you can do it manually.
Oh, that drove me crazy. Not like trying to work.
No, I hate it as well.
Oh,
I hate it as well. Like I didn't understand that at all. And it would show the picture of the brush in the top left, and you're like trying to match it. No, I hated it. Awful. Doing it manually, where you have that exact control over it, is so much better. Another thing, Ryan Sheldon just pointed out, which is super important, is if you really want to get that paint look, you want to be playing around with both opacity and flow. So when you've got your brush out, let me get a nice brush out. I like this one. This is the chalk brush by Keenan Lafferty, which is very nice. I believe his name to get it is Knockverst, but yeah, just look up Keenan Lafferty's brushes. Up in the top of the screen, when you've got a brush open, you have opacity and flow, and these change. Obviously, if the opacity is on full, you just get a straight, like, version of it. If you bring it down, you can see through it, and then flow changes the way that it moves on the screen. So Ryan Sheldon, for example, is saying that he has both of these on 80%, and different people have different opinions on this. So Proco has an amazing video on this. There's the 8080, by the way, so you can see it kind of overlapping on each other. And you can also see that the texture is coming through really nicely because the flow is spreading out the stamps of the texture. If you imagine this little rectangle as a stamp, it's kind of like just putting it off of each other. If you go on Proco's YouTube channel and you look up his brush videos, he has one on explaining exactly what the difference between opacity and flow is. And then gets you to do an exercise where you do it where they're both at full, then opacity is at 50%, then flow is 50% individually, and then looking at them together and like understanding how it works so that you can apply it to your own work. So I think that's super useful. Definitely go and look at that channel.
Yeah, when I was kind of first figuring that out and playing with that, I found that the flow became much more obvious once I was using larger brushes and brushes with more varied texture. Then you kind of see a repeated stamp effect as opposed to just one smooth stroke.
Yeah. I personally prefer flow on full, and then I turn my opacity down, but different people like different things.
Yeah, just whatever approach feels best or whatever the intended goal is. I have a Sanjay's piece loaded right here, and they actually made a nice series of like progress shots. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to put every progress shot into the appropriate folders to look at them. They can probably put a link in the chat or in the or even when it's in the post discussion subreddit, that'd be great, because it was really beautiful progress shots to kind of show how they built to this point. Which I did not see. This must have been like an older post they were working from. But it's like really beautiful, varied line work, especially if you watch kind of how the scribbles on the edges, even in the background, kind of trail off, and notice how it's going in different directions. That it's kind of that important thing is just because it's one surface doesn't mean you need to have one texture going one direction. And that's something that builds a lot of volume. Particularly, you can see it in this piece. Like obviously with the bangs, the hair goes in the kind of order and direction that the I mean, the line work's going in the order and direction of the hair, but you can see that very texture more when they were getting the subtle tonal differences in the neck and at the edge of the jaw, and working to the bottom of the chin where it gets into kind of a finer detail. Might even be able to zoom in a little bit. Let's see what happens. It might ruin everything. No, it didn't. That's good. Oh, we kind of lose it to the texture a little in resolution. But that's definitely what you can see is kind of going on here in these areas, and they did a beautiful job with that. And kind of between the soft and the hard lines on the features, erasing in soft on the smooth roundness of the cheek and the nose, having the hard edges on the lips, and then there's a very subtle reflected light on the upper lip that really makes the form right there. That it's very easy to make that all dark, but when you go in and you add that little bit of reflected light off of the bottom lip, it just makes all the difference in the world. Very beautifully done. Let's see, and we also have the next piece would be, there we go. Slam 9.
Was that Sanjay's picture?
That was Sanjay's picture.
I was wondering if they were classically trained, because I was looking at the, like, Atelier trained, because I was looking at the progress pictures, and it reminded me of the Atelier techniques. So, I'm intrigued.
Yeah, there's very much like the drawing reminds me, if you look at, like, old Rembrandt drawings, it's very much the classical approach, which is similar to a lot of kind of ways I learned figure drawing and figure structure. I don't know. I always like the delicateness of it. I'm very biased towards that approach. I'm old school, as everyone was saying earlier. I'm an old man now. I don't know if my man knows this, but I'm officially older than him now too. So he's got a lot he's got to fight for, because now Meaty works faster than him, and I decided that I'm now older than him. So Slam 9's piece is beautiful. It was almost like there's very little line work. It looks like kind of in pre-drawing, and they really just dove right in. I love the texture used to make the necklace. Just little bits of information, but your eye resolves it completely. Very, like, I don't know if they had to use a gel pen or if they really, it looks a little bit maybe like a gel pen, but if they worked around that small earring, which is really impressive with like a loose wet media. I'm curious also if this is actually a cold press paper. This almost looks like cold press to me. I don't know if Slam's watching right now, if they can clarify. But I'd be curious, because lots of times it's very easy to go to hot press paper because it has less texture, but cold press has that nice hardness to it that makes it easier to lift the watercolor from. Yeah,
I love this piece.
Yeah, it is absolutely beautiful. Just kind of a beautiful monochromatic feel, like, oh, not.
But it's not even monochromatic, because you've got the reds in there. And...
Oh, it's probably monochromatic to me. You see, that's why.
Yeah.
That's why.
In value, yeah. Like the reds and the blues are very similar in value,
right.
But there are the reds in the skin, and it just warms it up just slightly. Oh, I love it.
All right, so we're dealing more with what we refer to as analogous colors.
Yeah.
Color wheel. I thought it was totally monochromatic. Yeah, that's me, just being colorblind, you know. I was wondering, because I noticed it on the lip, on the upper lip. I was like, oh, okay, there's a, I'm like, oh, all right, that makes sense. You know, it looks like there's a little bit of another color in there. It almost looks kind of grayish to me, so I thought maybe it was just a value thing. And, nope, I'm just blind. Which I need to talk about that subject, actually, because that came up in the Artist Lounge as well. Someone referring to being colorblind, and someone on DeviantArt giving them shit for it, and
we need to talk about that.
We definitely need to talk about that. But okay, switching back now into art mode. That was all the pieces we had at that point submitted. So yeah, so work again. We take one more break later, and hopefully can get some art in. If it doesn't work out time-wise, we always can get the art ready for the next week. So don't fret too much. Just keep us posted, and then you can be in the rotating art that was in the bottom that we started the show with.
So I want to talk about the colorblindness.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about this subject. I didn't read the full post, but I remember it was something about someone. Was it that the original poster was colorblind, or was it that someone Yeah,
the
because
poster was
he was
colorblind.
trying to,
Right.
right. He was trying to critique work, but he was worried that he was offending the person he was critiquing because he could only give so much of a critique because he was colorblind. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Someone had told them. Actually, someone had told them that they're just like, dude, you shouldn't even be doing critiques at all if you're colorblind.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
So
and they were like
really
harsh on it too. They were like not like it wasn't even expressing an opinion. It was like straight up like
fact.
You shouldn't even be doing this. Like you're not welcome in our treehouse. You know. Oh, it made me so mad.
Yeah.
Oh, I did not like. I was pretty upset that someone told them that. I mean, obviously, like, you know, if you're colorblind, if someone's like, I need help distinguishing between reds and greens, can you help me?
Yeah, if it's like
no.
a very specific thing, it's like I need super color. Like, can you ID this color? Then yeah, maybe.
Well, and it's the thing is what you're asking when you're getting a critique is you're just asking for your the audience to look at it. What does the audience see? And everybody's a part of the audience. And even if you can't give an accurate color kind of critique, you could still also talk about relationships. You can still, I mean, maybe you won't be able to see if there's a glaringly odd part. Like in my case with red and green, there, and it also affects blue and purple. There may be some glaringly odd things that like I don't notice. But right. I could still notice other things, and you could still get a general sense of how you still see the palette. And so that's what was crazy to me. It was just like, why would they not get to have any advice at all? It made no sense. And even then, there's still a million other formal aspects of art that you can critique on.
Well, yeah, like, because I didn't get a chance to reply to the thread. I didn't have a chance to, like, actually look through it properly and stuff, so I didn't reply. But there was something... When I saw the title, I immediately thought of you. And I immediately thought of how much better you see value than I do. I really struggle with value. Like, people saw me earlier, like, switching between the black and white, and it's still completely off. God damn. I'm awful at value. I really struggle with it. And it seems daft because I make a comic book that's completely black and white, so you'd think I'd know what I was doing, but apparently not. I can't see it in colour. I have to really force myself to understand it. But I feel like you have an innate understanding of value. You just point it out, and I'll be like, oh yeah. I feel like you instantly understand it.
Well, yeah. Sorry to interrupt. I didn't mean to interrupt there.
No. I wondered if that was because of, or despite, or just random. I thought it was interesting.
I don't know if it's just kind of came over time because I think a lot of it is just the practice with pen and ink. The first thing that happened when I started working directly in pen and ink, when I didn't have to think about color anymore, is I realized I was not using the full value scale.
Right.
So in a way, since I can't really focus on color, maybe there was that kind of that benefit, that hidden benefit where once I took it away as a variable, I could just directly start thinking about the value scale. It wasn't hard for me to just go to black and white and immediately see like, okay, I am like usually with most drawings and most paintings, I would say that people tend to, on a value scale, they seem to go right to like maybe they work up to like an 8, but they very, very rarely try to approach like the from a scale to 1 to 10, the 10 in the darkness. They very rarely seem to just put like black on a piece, like just straight up just black paint, completely black ink. And it's such an important thing to do that. I find myself kind of sometimes being too gradual with when I approach black, that like I'll start with the lighter tones and then I'll work darker and darker. But eventually you never go all the way. That's why sometimes we joke about the old like hardcore marker, which, you know, from last season was pretty much a character of the show. But like what I love about it is it's all black. So if I bust this pen out and then I just go like boop like that, like, well, now there was black on the drawing, and now it went from being a drawing that was maybe a scale of 0 to 7, 0 to 8. Now I have to address 10. Now there is black here, so anything in this piece that is not dark enough I am now forced to have to figure out, like, pretty much to make the whole piece darker, or else it won't look right. Like, you can even see up here, this seemed like black when I put the paint on. That's mostly because I think there was still some water in the brush. But when I put this on, I thought this was black until it dried. It's not black. That's black. And you can see there's probably like almost a 2-shade difference. But you wouldn't notice that without the context. And so I think when it was easier, I don't know if it was easier, but it was easy for me to make that leap when I wasn't, because I was like, it was something I depended on so much. Like, all I could do, having kind of being colorblind, all I could really focus on is warm and cool, and and dark and light, and that was it. And so I didn't worry as much about what colors I was using. As you can see in Slam 9's piece, I mean, it's blue and red. It's like the person, they're not a Smurf. They don't have a blue face, but the piece looks okay if the values and the color's harmonious. And you can see that a lot when you look at, like, especially post-impressionism paintings. The value or the colors are all over the place, but it still looks all right. You're not like, you don't look at it and be like, oh, that doesn't feel right. Obviously, there's some abstraction there that kind of helps it be palatable, but it's not distracting. And so I think that's that kind of thing where not being able to see colors probably helped that a bit. And then eventually what brought it home was just, and I recommend it to anybody, if they ever feel like their pieces are too light, just like get straight black, like black paint, black ink, a black marker, and just find a part from your reference, or even if it's from light, what is the darkest shadow, and just put a completely black mark there. It doesn't even have to be large, because once that's there, you have to spend the rest of the piece matching that darkness, and it's going to make it so much better. It will really make it pop, because you'll have no choice. I mean, you look at old Baroque art, and you'll see that pushing those dark values makes all the difference in the world. It really is such a kind of small, immediate thing you can do, and if you follow through, it will make everything so much better. Like, obviously, pieces that if it's the concept and focus to make a light piece, that can be fine, but when you force black, I almost recommend, like, when I first started learning this, I remember I was in school, and we had to do some project where we had to kind of pick a concentration, and I wanted to see, like, what I did. It never really was realized to a final result, but it was can I work in pen and pencil on the same piece and make them look good together and look proper? Because one tended to look wet, one was dry, one was really dark, one was lighter, one was reflective, one was flat. Like, what could I do to make it look better? And or not make it look better, but could I make it work? And so eventually, when we had a critique and I hung everything up, I put my pieces up, and instead of having like one final project to show, it was just all my notes. I just covered the whole wall with every drawing I did, every study I did, and then that was it. It was like, that was the project, was what steps could we do to make this work? And I think that kind of stuck with me. And because I worked in that way for a while, and it looked okay, but it's kind of, looking back on it, it wasn't entirely successful, but it was good practice. I've seen artists do it better. There's an artist, I think their name is Simon Bisley, and they were like an artist for like that heavy metal magazine. So, I know it has that, it was kind of fantasy comics, highly sexualized. They made comments at me at the comic book store when I bought the comic, because, you're like a younger kid buying a comic that's just a bunch of like big boobs and guns. But that's like a lot of comics. But anyways, in hindsight, that's pretty weird to comment at someone about their purchase. But I bought it because it was one of the few comics I had ever seen that was ink and pencil. It wasn't just all ink, at least as far as I could tell. Maybe it was ink washes and I just didn't know. But it looked like pencil, and it made me try it. I still think the same thing with the Scary Stories books. I know that it's Stephen Gemmell. I don't know if Stephen or Steffen Gemmell, I can't remember, and I've never heard their names said out loud. But that had a similar look I was going for, and you can tell there's dry media in there, and it's very known for the kind of drippy inks, but also those gray tones that felt more like graphite than pen and ink, and that's another spot to look. I actually have 2 copies of those books because they reprinted it and they changed the illustrations, which is complete blasphemy. Yeah, you don't change like that. That book was known for having the creepy pictures that terrified children. You don't change that. Like, you don't change it. That's what made the books successful. I don't know why they switched it up. I think a lot of parents were complaining because they're just like, the pictures are scary as adults. Like, I look at it now. If I went in a gallery and there was a 10-foot piece of one of those drawings from those Scary Stories books, I would still go like, "Gah," and like want to leave the room. And this is a children's book. But, you know, kids, if they want to be scared, they want to be scared. Like, those were the best books ever. But anyways, that they are a great resource to study for that kind of art. I just can't emphasize how important it is, like, when doing value studies. I know this was a tangent off from the colorblind thing, but that's where the focus can go, and there's a lot you can contribute in that. You have to start seeing your limitations as a benefit, you know? It's like the movie Sneakers, you know? They got to break into like a building, you got the hackers, but there's the blind guy with the good hearing. They couldn't have broken in that building without the blind guy with the good hearing. Like, come on now.
Okay.
I know there's a lot of fans of the film Sneakers that watch the show, so I just wanted to give a shout out and make sure that, you know, they're not being ignored.
Right.
The Sneakers fan base. And you're a movie buff, so, you know, I always try to mention it.
I am.
You're like, of course, Sneakers. That's some of Robert Redford's and Christian Slater's best work together.
Dude, Obey My Brain knows what you're talking about.
Obey My Brain loves Sneakers. See, that's what I'm talking about. Here's a fun fact about the movie Sneakers, is their office was right next to the Fox Theater, which is right next to where my art studio is. So there you go. Boom. Oakland, Bay Area. Bay love. Bay life.
Foxtrot posted a quote. Like he said it was a rushed one of a watercolor and ink piece. And everyone's freaking out in chat because Foxtrot's like a god, right, when it comes to art.
Yeah.
And he's like, I feel pretty meh about it. And everyone's like, what's wrong with you?
Oh, Foxtrot.
So funny.
Every time I try to, like, tell Foxtrot that he's crazy and that his art's amazing,
he is crazy.
Yeah. I always remember that's coming from the guy who also, like, tears up half his pieces he does and smashes them.
You are a crazy person.
Yeah. I know the struggle, Foxtrot, but that piece is actually pretty amazing and really beautiful, so we'll definitely get that there. I have the image saved to show it later.
I just find it so funny that artists, you can have such different artists, right? That you have people who, like, hate their work,
right?
But it's amazing. It's the best thing you've ever seen in your entire life, or at least in that person's opinion. Mm-hmm. And then you can have someone else who thinks they're, like, the greatest gift to mankind, and it's like, nah.
Yeah, and
I think it's so fun.
And the art's just like, yeah, okay. It's like, I'm glad you're confident. Confidence is good.
Yeah.
I was telling someone about I volunteer some time helping someone start a gallery, and just been really fun, actually. It's been interesting. It's been interesting to, like, I don't know. When you're like assisting things but it's more on your own terms, it's amazing how much more enjoyable the experience can be.
Right.
But I was telling them about that Francis Bacon documentary where it was a BBC documentary, and I think it's like a half hour long and really great. The guy's got his personality he's just so funny. And I think he's at the Tate, and they're going through slides of his paintings. And he's just talking shit on his own paintings, but not in like an angry way. He's kind of like laughing about it because these are paintings that are like, obviously by that point his career is well established. He's huge. He's a master. And he's just kind of like, he'll just say things they're going through. And he's like, yeah, I don't know what I was trying there. He's like, I have that weird little blob in the corner. He's like, yeah, that didn't work at all. He's like, I can't even really look at this painting. The guy's kind of blown away and he's just smiling. And then they proceed to have lunch together as he talks more, and he gets just absolutely hammered on wine. Great documentary. I'll put it in the post-discussion thread if someone reminds me. I know it's all on YouTube, and it is totally worth a watch. I think humbleness as an artist can really go a long way. It's very humanizing. Also, just though, be sure not to fall into self-destruction, because
that's what I was going to say.
We can be very guilty of that. Just don't be self-destructive. You can be humble, and it can be light, but don't let yourself fall into self-destruction. Yeah.
Like, I see artists who are really good and they just crush themselves. Like I'll be at a convention and the artist will not look up from where they are. They won't talk to anyone and they'll hide their artwork. It's like away, and it's like, you realize you're here to sell stuff, right? What are you doing? And their work's great. It's like, I really like what you're doing. It's so cool. So why are you turning yourself into this tiny little ball of a human being? Like, you are awesome. Smile. Like, it's crazy.
I make that mistake all the time because I have the monthly art walk and I still sometimes just kind of lurk in the corner. Like I still get, it's hard. It can be really difficult. And I think sometimes if you have maybe gone through some type of moment that was a severe rejection or anything, you get really hesitant to put yourself out there. To put yourself out there again. And I mean, it's such a battle. It is such a battle just to make sure that you don't let yourself do that. But it's so important, and it's, I don't know, you have to just get, like, eventually at some point, if you have that problem, you almost have to treat it in a certain way where at some point you gotta just almost be like what you would consider reckless. You're just like, screw it, let's see what happens if I say this. It's like they're sitting there, like, lurking to try to ask, like, for someone's phone number, like, trying to ask someone out, and they're just like, I don't know. Why would they like me, you know? And then
I think it takes time and it takes exposure as well.
Yeah.
So, like, if you're, like, when I started at conventions, I was the most, like, anyone will tell you, I was the most shy thing in the world. Like, I spoke to someone recently who's seen me, like, grow up at the shows, because I started at 17, I'm 23 now.
Right.
So at my first show, I was the little person curled up in a ball, not wanting to talk to anyone. And it took me, like, years of conventions to get out of that. And it was about, I don't know what it is. I guess it was just the exposure to it and learning to love it. Like, it started to get to a point where it was like, I didn't have to worry about trying to, like, quote, sell my work. It was instead just learning to be passionate about my work. And they'd either like it or they didn't. And it was about, if I can sit there and happily chat about video games, then why can't I talk about artwork in the same way? And it was about trying to approach that with my own work, which was hard because you see stuff in your own work that you do hate, that you know you did wrong and wasn't what was supposed to happen. And other people might not see it, or they might love it. They might love it for particularly that reason. But you might hate that. But I think it is important to remember that you did it, and that's a great thing in and of itself. Like, the fact that you made it and it's out there and it exists, well done, that's amazing. Like, there's several artists I meet at conventions, and I'll speak to them and I'll be like, which one's your favorite piece? Which of these, of your enormous gallery, which one is your favorite piece? And they'll look at me and they'll look at the artwork, and then they'll look back at me and they'll go, actually, I don't have a favorite, because each of them meant a different thing. There might be some that are more technically impressive than others, but they were each as equally important in my own growth. And I think that's, I don't know, I love that. I aspire to that. I aspire to think like that, so that when I'm talking to someone, I don't, like, when I'm like, here, have a look at my artwork, but it's awful. Like, no, don't do that. Just say, what do you think? And just listen. And then if you want to express more, then go ahead and, like, start to be like, I really liked this bit, rather than I hated everything I did with this, or it was met. Like, the modesty is important, but it should not be crushing.
That is exactly it, and that is what I screw up all the time. It's so important, though. You can be modest. I found that there's a line, you know, when you're talking about art, you can mention, like, a part, like a little error, but it's like, it has to be like a little quip, like a little, it's just like, oh, and I struggle with this part. You can see right here, there is a little bloop, and as long as it's not distracting, it's like, oh, it's fine. But you have to still, your confidence in the piece has to outweigh those things. You can't just, I suck. Because even me, who is super hard on myself, I do that all the time. It's like, oh, this sucks, I hate this. And it's like, eventually, it's like you start sounding like that friend, like when everyone's having fun and you're like, I'll just ruin the fun, guys. I'll stay home. And eventually everyone's like, yeah, cool, stay home. You know, like, please don't come. Like, oh, okay, you know. And you can't let that happen.
And you can have that moment So, sorry if I'm cutting across you. I can't hear you very well, so I don't know if I am.
No.
You can have that moment, but just don't have it in front of the people who are trying to tell you you're amazing, right?
Right.
You can have that moment where you hate your artwork. That is totally normal. And you can sit at home and you can stare and you can be like, this is the worst thing I've ever done. Have that moment, because it's important to have that moment if you're feeling it, right?
Right.
And it's important to look at that piece of artwork and say, I'm going to improve on this for the next piece in these ways, right? It's not because everything I make is awful. It's just because what I want in my head is ahead of what I made just now.
Right.
But when you're standing in front of someone and you're sharing your artwork and you're having that, whether it be with an artist or someone you're selling to, that camaraderie that you create will be ruined if you stand there saying everything about it's wrong, I hate my life, right?
Exactly.
It will destroy that moment that you can have with that person where you don't have to stand there and go, I'm the best thing in the world and I did this education and blah blah blah. You don't have to do that. You can just have that moment where you share it and the two of you, like when you guys, like when you're with your best friend and you both watch your favorite TV show together and you have that little moment like right? You can have that moment with them and you can enjoy that thing.
And that's and I mean, it's just guilty as charged. We've all been there. Unfortunately, the thing is also I should mention is that in Foxtrot's case, he's just actually a really hard critic on himself. So he just sometimes he'll feel things, he'll be on board, and then if he doesn't, he doesn't. But he's much better about not falling into the I suck mode that I fall into all the time. He's very good about not getting to that point.
I think Foxtrot clearly has a high understanding of what he wants to be making. Or obviously, this is me putting words in someone else's mouth, so please ignore this if you want to. But from what I see, he's one, incredibly skilled, and two, if you're that incredibly skilled, you probably do a lot of study, or at least you have done, right? You don't just know that.
Right.
Whether you've consciously studied or not is important, but you clearly studied, so you can be at a point where what you want to make is ahead of that. And I think it's important, and I think in Foxtrot's case he does this, to be able to look at your work and say, actually, I'm not comfortable with it because of X, Y, Z, and that's fine. I think the thing that Foxtrot doesn't do, he doesn't destroy the artwork with that. He doesn't throw himself down. Yeah, exactly. He doesn't like destroy it with words, which I see artists do, and it's like, but you're amazing. You can't even see it, and I wish I could just show you how I see you, right?
Right.
It's like,
and he doesn't
but you can't
destroy it physically, which, you know.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Sometimes you do need to do that, though. I've had my fair share of that.
I had actually recently destroyed a piece, not because I hated it, but because I knew if it was there, I would never finish it, and it would take me about a year to paint, and that is the last thing I need in my art career right now. So I actually destroyed the piece. It was that one, I had it on Instagram, and it just said, I want out. It was like,
yeah.
But it was because I didn't want to spend another year working on one painting. Like, I don't need that right now in my career. And it was just like, and I knew if that was an unfinished painting in my racks, it would always sit there and haunt me, and I had to just get rid of it. It was like, no, not anymore. You know, like, not right now. Like, that, I'm not, though maybe my skill set's ready for the painting, my life is not ready for that painting.
But that's okay, because that was for you. It wasn't, you weren't putting that experience on someone else.
No.
You were just having that moment for yourself, saying, this is something I need to do. Like, I did, my first book originally had a completely different cover. And I spent about 14 hours making the cover. It was this very detailed illustration. I don't know if I have the book next to me. This is book 2, but it was very similar to that, with the side of the main character's face. That's what I ended up doing. But the original was an incredibly detailed illustration that covered the whole of the front, wrapped around, and went all the way to the back. But it was awful. Like, it was the worst thing I'd ever drawn. I woke up the next day and I looked at it and I was like, everything about this is wrong and it does not represent anything that I'm trying to create.
Right.
Well, get rid of it then, right? It's like you have to, if you look at it and you're like, this is objectively incorrect. I just got rid of it and then made the new cover in about 3 hours when it was supposed to be going to print in literally like 4 hours. I was like, just do it, make it, scan it, and it like it's not the best thing in the world. It was mediocre, but it was what was needed, and I'm happy with how.
Oh, that gives me so much anxiety just hearing it though, because it was like right down to the wire. That gives me so much anxiety hearing that.
I hadn't slept the whole night because I'd been up all night making the previous front cover. So I went to bed for an hour, woke up, looked at it, and thought that's awful. So I'd done like a 42-hour day, and I looked at it and I was like, that's an issue. Like I can't use that. And I had to have this moment with myself where I just said, oh well, just because you used the time, oh well, unfortunately you used the time wrong. You can't commit to it now, make something better. Okay. Right. But I didn't then print the book with an awful cover and then every time I go to sell it say it has an awful cover but I hope you like it. Like that would be dumb. And I think a lot of artists kind of do that. They, even if it is like a piece that they're very proud of, that they actually really like, I think they swing too far the other way and they stand there and they're like, it's awful, but I hope you like it. And it's like, don't say that. Yeah, right. Just hand me the piece of artwork and let me tell you that you're a beautiful human being.
Let me tell you that it's awful. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just... That's still to this day though, that story about like the last minute thing. I get so much anxiety. Awful. I know that exact that moment.
Dude,
that moment where you're sitting there and you're like,
it's worse now.
Oh god.
It's worse now because I know it's going to happen again. That's the worst thing. It's like I've experienced it. The original time through, I just had to deal with it. I just had to keep going.
Right.
Now I know I'm doing like 10 pages a day and I've got like whatever left to do, but I know the worst bit's coming up because I've already done it. Like I'm over it before. Like I can be like, oh well, that was the past. Now I know that it's going to happen. I know that I'm going to have to sit here and scan 200 pages, and my scanner is only so fast, and I've got to get it to the printer, and I've got to do like 2 checks of the edits and the text and stuff. I've got to make the text and put it all in. It's like, this is going to happen, and I'm like, I know it's going to happen. It's going to get done. It's going to go through, but I'm going to do 36-hour days again.
I think people need to also think about that level of timeline where you're sitting there scanning and you're doing the math and you're like, there is not enough time that the scanner's moving at that speed that I can finish this. I'm not going to sleep. I can't sleep. So no matter how sick and tired I feel, I have to keep going. And there's not enough time for the scanner to scan the pages it needs to before the end. And it's like, I have to just sit here. I have to just sit here and feel sicker and sicker until I know that something is just over, and I don't know what it is. I had that happen twice in getting art ready for art shows. One was a really complicated collage, and the other time was this ridiculous ballpoint pen drawing.
We were talking about ballpoint pen drawing in the chat, saying how it's really good for learning to shade. Yeah,
it is. It's a surprisingly... Oh, and I should mention, someone had asked about the ink I was using. So I wanted to mention, so right now I'm using these, Dr. P.H. Martin's Bombay black inks, and they're fine. They're all right. They're not particularly great ink. You can get much nicer ink, and I'm sure there's people there that can point you in that direction, because to be honest, I have not studied ink that much in regards to quality of ink, which is stupid. I really should. Because literally I'm downgrading to a speedball ink because it was so much cheaper. And this is so much ink. It was like this was twice the size of this little bottle. And there is a difference. This one's a little more matte, a little warmer, but so hardly noticeable that I'm just hoping that this one doesn't go shitty after time. It says it has the color fastness in it, or the light fastness, but we'll see. That's the ink I'm going to be using next to save money. And so this thing, I think, is what was confusing people. They see this. This is literally just the lid of a paint can. And so it's this water can right here. And I just dripped some black ink, some all black ink right there. Oh, it's hard to... Oh, there we go. It's all black ink right here. And then I have a mixture in this second bottle that's part water, part ink. So it's kind of like maybe a mid-range gray. that's right there, and then this is just when I mix things together, and that's what I've been painting on. I think that was confusing people, like what the hell's Mike using to get the ink?
Right.
That's what that is. So I wanted to clarify.
Sumi ink comes in gigantic bottles too. That's what Ryan showed me. Sumi ink is what I use with my manga.
I'd be really interested to try that. I know if the quality's good, because particularly what I love in the matter black inks, like if you were to draw with a Sharpie, you'd see like that's way too cool and not rich and deep. Now Sharpie drawing's fun, but you can see when you're doing pen and ink how it's not a very good black. And what I love about these hardcore markers and this kind of stuff is it's an acrylic ink, and it's very close to the black of India ink, and that's why I tend to mix these together, is because it's not distractingly different inks. Like, obviously, you could use subtle differences to your advantage, but it's not really my goal with these, so... it looks like one of those circular paint pots you have in primary school. That's what Dixie says.
Yeah, the poster paints, they're called. I know exactly what you mean.
I'm not even sure. I'm not sure what that is.
Wait, I wonder if I can find a picture of these, because it might be called something else in America. Poster paints.
It's like you use the big foam brushes and you make like banners with it and stuff. Is that what it is? I don't know. That's all I know.
Oh, these are in little tubs. So they're like a powder, right? They're circular. They look exactly like what you've got, but they're kind of a powder texture. You get a brush and you put water on it, and you put it over it, and it turns it into the paint. And then you paint with that, and then it dries back down. It's for little kids and stuff.
It sounds difficult. It sounds like it'd be really hard for a little kid to
get
used to
it's
that.
Literally, it's these giant discs that you can use of each of the different pigments. So then they can just take their little brushes, and they just put a bit of water on it, and then they've got wet paint on their brush that they paint with. Kind of like if you were maybe using like a watercolor pencil or something. It's just like it turns it into paint with the water, and then it just instantly dries down once it's left alone.
Is the advantage of it? It's not. Yeah.
You can just keep it open all the time, basically. So you can just leave it on the side, so you can just run over and paint with it, and then it dries down. You haven't got like a paint pot open that's like ruining its like top or something.
So like watercolor, in other words. It works like watercolor.
Yeah, very similar to watercolor. Yeah.
You can let it dry out, but you can reactivate it.
It says the discs are also concave, so excess water is contained in the middle. Yeah, so you're not going to spill stuff. So they're great for kids. We get them at primary school.
I see. Though
I hate this black that I just chose.
What?
Nothing. I chose a black to paint with, and I hated it, and I just like deleted a really important layer. Right, I'm not doing well with this painting. If I'm honest.
Mine's feeling okay. It's not exactly how I want it, and I'm just like, I feel like I'm having trouble like diving in. And I had a feeling this was going to happen with this reference, but I'm struggling to. I don't know. Like I'm having trouble committing to areas of like dark areas because I have to do a lot of guesswork, and it's just the image is hard to work with in that regard. There's not a big value range in the image.
I'm scaling too low. I'm doing everything too dark than what it actually is. Like I've got my values off completely, and I think it's because there's so little range in the image that my brain's just telling me stick with mid tones.
Yeah, just like keep it kind of mid and gray, but
when it's actually not. But yeah, I hate it. I don't hate the image, but I hate what I'm doing to it.
See, they Shmoony just drew the kitty with the little thing on its head.
I might change to that one in the next hour.
I don't know, man.
Shredify's been doing like a whole series on little cats. It's adorable.
Yeah. It's definitely, I'd recommend, as with all the artists, to look them up. But if you guys aren't following each other on Instagram, whatever, you need to get on that so you can see Yeah. Someone just like actually someone else had just posted their Schmoonifies at Schmoonify Instagram.
Okay, we're gonna go to a break in a few minutes.
Exactly. Like exactly, what a weird thing to say. I was focused on the brush
Exactly.
word, so I didn't like say the right like grammatically correct response to the phrase.
I might just change to grayscale and give up on this. I'm hating these colours. I don't know what it is. I'm so much worse working with a cool tone palette, and I don't know why. I just screw everything up.
Oh, with a cool palette over. Well, I mean,
over a warm palette, yeah.
See, I don't know. That's just the thought of that. That seems bizarre to me. Like, because then you have to, like, how do you bring things forward without your warm tones? You know?
No. Yeah, I mean that, like, if I'm starting from, like, if you imagine the base of the painting, the first wash, if I'm starting from something cool, I always mess it up. Whereas if I'm starting from something warmer and I'm using a lot of warmer tones, and then only using the cool tones in the shadows, I'm way more comfortable with that.
I see.
I don't know why. I guess I just naturally feel it looks prettier to me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I need to practice more.
I'm having that struggle where I'm not, as we were saying earlier, but I'm not diving into the dark tones. I'm just kind of like, I'm being a wuss. I'm being a wuss right now. I'm like, oh, what if I paint a dark line and it's not right? Oh.
I've just merged all the layers. I'm gonna just paint over the top of the whole thing. I'll figure it out.
I gotta stop being a wuss. This is ridiculous. I didn't spend all these years learning how to art to be a wuss.
How about we go to a break?
Okay.
Anyone who has artwork to share, send them across to us.
Yep.
We'll put them up. Keep your watermarks on them and stuff so that everyone can see them, just in case we don't talk about it. And if you have any questions, leave them in chat. Other than how do I art?
How do I art? Takes the VD. How do I art? Well, that's a question you're going to be asking yourself every single day. So.
Yeah, so if you have any questions, leave them here as well, and we can pick them up in the next little bit of the show.
Mm-hmm. All right, everybody. We will be... Oh, I think it's like... I'm just seeing Sleepy Time just show up. I don't know if they've been here for a bit, but they're just showing up now. Okay, so we're going to take a break for a minute and collect things, and then we'll be right back.
Yeah. Bye!
Peace! And we're back. Thanks for hanging in there with us.
We're talking about gluten in the chat, having a right laugh.
Right. Gluten and well, I don't know. I missed it. I missed the chat because I was busy. I was busy being hardcore, just hardcore editing, going for it, balls to the wall.
I'm just sitting here making dumb jokes with everyone.
Making fun of me. I understand how it is.
Yeah, all the time.
Right.
It's how I live my life.
Okay.
So we have chosen... Oh, God, my thing is doing a thing. We have chosen an art piece each that we want to talk about. No one asked for critiques. So we're not doing critiques. We've chosen one each that we had some things to say about. And the rest will be rolling in the Share Your Art screen. We can't talk about everyone's because there just isn't enough time. But all of your artwork is freaking amazing, and you know that we love it. But yeah, so I chose this one. This is Sleepy Time's piece, and it just jumped out at me. Like, obviously there was so many amazing artwork. You guys can all see the artwork as well, and you know how amazing it is. But there was something about this piece, and I think it's the use of what's the name of it? Shape control, or oh god, what, shape theory, whatever it is called. I've even done classes on this. What am I doing? Why can't I figure out what the name is? Anyway, I like the bounciness of all of the different shapes. If you look at the top, you've got this kind of like heart shape in the hair, and then you have that flowing shape recreated in the outfit that they've given this character. They've turned our model into a character, and I thought that was so impressive, like giving them this gorgeous raven with the little blue hues because of the lovely shimmering effect you get with ravens, and that matches her piercing blue eyes. I was so impressed with how Sleepy had moved this piece and kind of taken it in a completely different way, because the title of the piece, she was talking about how she was doing like a costume test, and I really like the fact that they turned it into this whole production and gave her like a frame and the little pieces of lace and stuff. I don't know, I think it's gorgeous, and I think her facial structure, where the angle of her jaw is in, like, contrasts so well with the flowy hair, so you get this kind of sense that she is this like hard piercing character who has, like, maybe she's very powerful, like it says the Baroness, and yet on the flip side you have this enormous flowing hair like something out of Once Upon a Time. I don't know, I fell in love with this piece, and I had to try and share it on here.
And then I wanted to talk, this is a Foxtrot Oscar's piece. This is the one he was not certain about. And as you can see, it is a great piece. Had he not mentioned he wasn't certain about it, we probably wouldn't even be thinking too much about that right now. But so be the way of things. It is definitely like a nice juggle of cool and warm. I'm not sure if there was a certain material aspect that he wasn't feeling. It's a little bit harder to see the detail in the hair because there was just kind of the photo glare. I don't know. There's a lot I like here. It's definitely a lot of kind of realized forms. I like how the area around the neck is kind of left open to the paper and just drips from the chin and then down into the clavicle and shoulders. I thought was a very beautiful moment in the piece. I mean, it's kind of hard to, like, I don't really like just jumping in certain things. If I like to usually ask an artist first, like, what is the part of the piece that they're not feeling? What did they feel a struggle with? Like, you can definitely see a certain sense in this one that there was a little bit of a battle that took place. There was kind of like some areas around the nose where it looked like there was a lot of reworking was done, and around the eye, our right, the figure's left eye, you can tell where there's areas where there was some like rework and struggle. And the thing is, it's hard about acrylic is that can tend to happen. Not acrylic, excuse me. With watercolors, that can tend to happen. It is not the most forgiving medium. You can pick it up and reactivate it, especially if it's on a hard cold press paper. You can reactivate it and soak it back up to a certain degree, but you'll never get that paper completely white again. Sometimes you can go on top of it with acrylic with white, and that can help. But that's what's also kind of great about watercolors. It's loose, and it will kind of like just force you to have to deal with the medium. So it's kind of a nice working ground where I actually feel like watercolor, even though the paper's stained, will be more even forgiving than acrylic, which is just dry. It's there, and it kind of forces you to work at its speed. Whereas with watercolor, you can kind of have like a more like calm and slower pace when working with it. It's very representational of this piece. There also was a request to talk about this burrito that Meaty Elbow made and is currently eating. I say it's made because it looks clearly like a homemade burrito. And the hardest thing, so when you're trying to work with burritos, one of the hardest things is finding a large tortilla. Usually you need to kind of go, that's just not something you get generally at a Safeway or a Tesco if you are in the UK. Or if you go to, I don't know, what's a real store in the UK? No, not Pret. What is the grocery store?
Tesco. Yeah, Tesco is where we all go. Although we all call it Tesco's, even though there isn't an S at the end.
You see that, and Tesco's was so bizarre to me. It was like a like for anyone in America who hasn't seen a Tesco, it feels like a combination between like a Walgreens or a Rite Aid and a grocery store. It's really bizarre. But and they just had like bins on the floor, and everyone's just grabbing stuff, and I'm like, I don't know what's happening.
Right, yeah.
Maybe I went to like a really crowded one.
They're bargain bins. They're like little like not chain, like I don't know how to describe it. They're like little racks and of little bargain bins, and they just have loads of stuff in them, and then you can just pick out what you want. They're like £3 for like a DVD or something. I don't know.
Oh yeah, see, I know we have that at our Walmarts out here, but yeah, Tesco's an experience. But anyways, back to the burrito.
All roads lead to Tesco.
All roads lead to Tesco. Usually those roads involve inebriation, and they'll let. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, so an interesting thing you need to really discuss that we haven't talked too much, at least this season at all, about burritos is whether you're gonna grill or steam the tortilla. In the Bay Area, it tends to be more common to steam the tortilla. It makes it more wrappable around the food. But the thing also is, it's just better to grill it. I'm sorry, like, I know according to the 538 website that San Francisco had the best burrito is a La Taqueria, but as someone who lives in the Bay Area and I take pride in the burritos out here, I do feel like Southern California really has something special with the burritos there, and I think maybe we lose sight of that over time. I don't know what leads to that, but it's the way they grill the burrito and they keep the ingredients very simple. It's hard to see the inside of this one, but it's kind of like the ingredients look straightforward. I can't tell if there's like some type of lettuce in there, which is a very bold move. Lettuce can either make or break a burrito. You got to be really careful when you add that in there, and the texture can throw everything off. And yeah, so that's Meaty Elbow's burrito that he's enjoying right now, and we can always discuss more burrito at any time or get a burrito critique with your art critique. So back to art. Enjoy the thumbnails of the art below. We have drawings from Meaty Elbow and That Gal Explain and Schmoonify, and Sanjay did a piece on a whiteboard that was beautiful, and there was another piece here that actually I have to look up the name here. Juhas Salmonen. I'm sorry, I'm terrible at pronunciation. You'll see that scrolling through the bottom tab right now. If they have any watermarks or anything that you can see there, take the time to follow them on Instagram. Everyone stay connected.
Yeah.
That's all we ask. Just stay connected. Hang in there.
I finished my pigs.
You finished it? Oh, you did finish it.
I hate it.
Man.
I hate it. I like where the hair's going. I like what the background's doing. I think it's doing something interesting. The face is awful. I've got the proportions off completely. And this isn't like a, oh my god, woe is me. This is just me critiquing myself. The proportions, if you look at them, are just, what is that? What is that? It's awful. It's I don't know what's wrong with me. Like last week I was so happy with the RGD I did. I don't know why this is going so wrong. It must be something completely fundamental that I've got wrong. I'm guessing I'm not getting the roundness of the face. I'm flattening it down completely. And I'm moving, like if I draw on top of this, I'm moving the features so that they don't fit. If I turn it into a box, that's the head. Then the eyes should be like here, and the eyebrows will be here, and the nose will be here. And if I leave that on, like mouth should be like here-ish somewhere, I guarantee it will be completely off. Oh, it's not that bad. It's just over, and it's just like, it looks like some kind of dead creature. I don't like it. I'm thinking I might continue this, look at it tomorrow with fresh eyes, and give it another shot.
I just realized I said something and then my microphone was turned off.
Yeah, I was like, why are you so quiet?
I turn it off sometimes when I have to type because I have a keyboard that's loud.
You have the worst keyboard in the universe.
I have the best keyboard, just because the whole neighborhood can hear it. So what? I'm a fan of I love my cherry blue switches. Kill me. Jeez. I'm sorry. I am a very tactile person when I type. What can I say? It feels good.
God damn it.
I got nothing. That's the best I could defend myself. I also like to give a shout out to my homie Chris Keene. I don't know if he's watching right now. You can't tell anymore, but I did use. I helped him move, and he hooked me up with a thing that so I can make big round ice cubes, which are fantastic with whiskey. You just put a big round ice cube in there, and it brings the taste right to where you want it as it melts. So I just wanted to thank him and also let him know that his plants that I'm taking care of ever since he moved to LA are in good hands. They're looking fine. I can show them the next podcast. I just can't show them now because I don't have them in this room. He moved to LA to, well, it was his time. It was a number of things. He was following his heart in all aspects.
Someone is using the DAC hashtag to post pictures of cakes.
Of cakes?
Yeah. Super Time says that they're a fan of their work.
I wonder why DAC for cakes, I wonder. I mean, I could obviously the C, but...
Maybe it's the name of their, like, little...
Maybe they have a bakery.
CCF. Yeah. I've been trying to force Mike to do watercolors forever now.
It's true. Yeah. Chantal has been trying to force me to do watercolors forever. And I think I was a pact with Meaty that I would have to do watercolors. I think we were going to rotate roles, and he was going to dive into the ink, and I was going to do watercolor for an episode.
Yeah, Meaty says, let's gang up on him in the post-podcast thread.
Oh, God. They know I'm not capable of defending myself.
I don't see the resemblance on the cake. Maybe it's another RGD.
I don't... Oh, you know what? We didn't even talk about here. We have Tim's piece as well.
Yeah!
Which is a really nice drawing.
Let's see.
I have it there. There has to be a delay before you can see the
there we go.
see it on the screen there. I can get a little closer so you can see some of his line work. Tim always had very gentle, delicate caresses of graphite and pencil.
I love the hair.
Yeah.
The hair is done so well. It captures the fairy tale mood of her hair, which I feel like a lot of people have gone towards. Like, particularly Sleepy, everyone was mentioning that reminded them of fairy tales and stuff. Like, I feel like everyone's noticed that ethereal princess or, like, evil queen hairstyle. They've tried to capture it in different ways. It's so cool.
Oh, man, I haven't even started on the flowers. What was that? I love, like, I don't know, just all the little details. The hair swirls with the flowers. The lines all kind of work around each other.
Yeah. Dizav says, I love hair that is drawing strands.
That is a very fun moment. One of my favorite things ever is when I have a bunch of, like, a lot of dark and black hair, and then I can jump in with the Jelly Roll pen and then just do those few highlights of those hair strands. Oh, that makes me so happy. I think I do the whole drawing just to do that part. Like,
yeah, that's my favorite part as well, actually. I'm sure he said this on a previous show, but didn't Tim say that he doesn't erase it, he leaves the white? Is that true? Am I
Yeah, he doesn't erase it, he leaves it.
That blows my mind.
Style.
Think about that for a minute. Think about the fact that he's leaving tiny little bits to create those white bits. That is mind-blowing.
I try not to think about it. No, I'm just kidding. Here, I can bring it back here. Let me bring it back. Yeah, it's all left. See, I have the camera on, like, so it doesn't autofocus, or else we'd be listening to the camera focus. But I can assure you that yeah, the lighter strands are left from the paper.
That's mental. That is the craziest thing. He is a crazy human being.
Yeah, I keep trying to tell him, but he won't listen. No.
And those little, like, Sakura-esque petals. God damn it. God damn, why is everything he makes so, like, delicately beautiful?
I know, he's just that's he just has a lot of heart. What can I say? Tim's just full of love. He hasn't been poisoned with all the hatred that fills my heart, that pumps dark black ink.
I kind of prefer my piece without a face.
You're enjoying. You like everything else but the face in the piece.
Well, I've painted the face out, but I quite like it. I quite like it as like this weird blank face.
Just leave it. Just roll with it. That's what the piece is now.
No.
It'll be fine.
I am only supposed to be studying hair, not faces, to be fair. Which is quite funny.
Oh, that's right. It's doing hair studies right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm supposed to be. Quite enjoying using like I've got these hairbrushes here. They make like little strands. They're super cute. I like them. Can't remember who I got them from. I think they were with the K&KL brushes, the Knock First brushes. I definitely recommend people check those out. There's also, if anyone's on Manga Studio, the brushes that I used all the time with that were the Red Juice brushes. Check those out. They're well good.
Manga Studio. I mean, I should be practicing digital painting more in general, but yeah, Manga Studio, man, that's got a... Especially like when I was first learning and focusing on a lot of black and white, like Manga Studio really had, I don't know, I feel like it, just the pen tool and then like the basic brushes of it felt more natural.
Yes, I definitely agree. I really struggled with Photoshop, and then I moved over to Manga Studio, and I used that almost for the whole of last year, just because the basic brushes on it felt so much better. Now that I know about all these different brushes and like how to create my own and stuff like that, I feel a lot more confident with this, with Photoshop. But yeah, I much preferred Manga Studio. Oh shit, I just deleted the whole thing. Right, there we go. That's the only thing with... I guess you do have that for traditional. Accidentally deleting the whole thing.
I mean, you can accidentally like kick over a bucket of paint or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Or I don't know. I've had paintings ruined in various ways. I've had materials kind of start falling apart, and that's completely ruined pieces.
God.
Yeah, bad news. So yeah, there's equivalents. I don't know. I'd still get scared about something just crashing. Like even when I'm always really paranoid about losing files and whatnot. So even as like we do this show and I save the copies and backups of it. I actually bought like 2 external hard drives, so in case one fails, and then like, and even that makes me nervous because I'm like, they're the same brand. I should have bought different brands. What if it's like a faulty thing and they both die? You know, like I'm always freaked out by that. I remember I went to a bank and I was gonna get a safety deposit box to put like an external hard drive with all my art and all the files in it, you know, so it's like that off-site safe thing. And I didn't notice, but like I was asking, like, I need a safety deposit box, and they're like, how large would you need one? I'm like, just large enough to hold this, and I show them like my external hard drive, and I guess you're like, they're not supposed to know what's in it, and I was just like, or is it, you know, like,
or is it?
It's just this mysterious hard drive I need to put in a bomb-proof shelter.
You're supposed to do that if you make a book, like to hold your copyright. You put it in a envelope and get it dated at the post office, and then you get it held at the bank, like in a safe deposit box.
So you can prove that was the day that you had that thing made or whatever?
Exactly. So if you end up being taken to court because someone's like, I made this thing, you can be like, actually, no, I made this thing. But you don't actually have to do that, so I haven't done that.
Is there that holds up pretty official? You don't need to like file for an official copyright thing or something?
No, that you don't have to file for copyright. That doesn't exist. This is one of the things that so many people misunderstand when they make their stuff. You file for trademark. You don't file for copyright of making a thing, like a piece of artwork or a book. That's not... I'm basing this off of UK law, so I apologise if this is different in different countries. But here, the fact that you have made a thing and you've not used someone else's rights who previously made a thing, that you've not used trademarked materials or IP, then by default you own it. So you own the copyright for that thing just by making it. You would then trademark something like a logo or your branding or perhaps a main character like Mickey Mouse you would trademark, right? Because that is what represents you. Everything within the book, as long as you have records that you made it, that proves that it exists.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that proves that you own it. Yeah, Ryan Sheldon art. Copyright exists as soon as you make it, yeah.
Oh. Good to know.
Yeah, so,
fun fact.
So many people are like, how do I protect my work? How do I protect my work? Just, there's like some default stuff you can just write in the book. Like, I've got like the default manga stuff in my one. It's like no portion of this book may be reproduced or transmitted in any form or by any means without written permission from the copyright holder, blah 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 blah, blah, right? But just by making it, it means you own it. And then you can do added protection by using these things where you send it to the bank and stuff. But when I found out that you don't actually have to do that, I just didn't do it. I got it like put in a thing by the post office and dated, but I didn't get it held at a bank because you don't actually need to. You can just do it if you want that added protection.
Huh. Well, let that be a lesson, people. It's not as easy to steal Sarah's art as you thought.
Wahaha.
Obey my brain. In the U.S., if you register your copyright, you can then sue for not just actual lost income, but to punish infringement. Interesting.
Foiled again.
Oh, these kids stealing everything these days.
Ugh. Why is this just not working for me? What's wrong with me? Someone tell me what am I doing wrong. Someone tell me the thing that I've completely missed.
Do you want me to tell you what you're doing wrong?
Yes, tell me what I'm doing wrong.
Okay. You started drawing specific features before you laid in the structure of the face.
Dude, you're right.
Because I made that same mistake, and that's what took me so long to get started on this damn thing. I'm out of practice. That's why this piece normally would be, if I was like, in the zone, it would be much further along, but that's the mistake. That tends to be I think that's literally the only mistake that ever happens, is going too specific too fast. I don't think there's any other mistakes in art.
What, none at all?
There's none at all. The only mistake you'll ever make is that you're going too specific too fast in your drawing.
Okay.
So let that be a lesson.
You're correct as well. I should have worked with the main.
Well, yeah, because that's the only mistake. I didn't even have to look at it. I could have just said that, and it would have been right. Even if you liked the piece, it still would have been the only mistake made.
God damn it! It doesn't have enough cats. That's what chat reckons.
Oh, it doesn't have enough what?
It doesn't have enough cats, and I'm trying to draw with my wrist and fingers instead of my whole arm. You're correct. I haven't got it big enough.
Right.
Well, I don't really have a big enough tablet to do that. Not with like a portrait like this.
Ryan Sheldon art. That is some funky ass music in the background. Yeah, you're goddamn right it is. I make sure of it. I put work into those mixes every week, all vinyl mix. So, you can look that up on Mixcloud. Look up Funisher and see the Draw Circle soundtracks. There's 2 of them now. You can hear those beats, and then everyone was saying there sounded like a song where someone was singing from a refrigerator. I don't know what song that is, but it's there, and they're listed with the titles if you want to find it.
God damn it.
I love my funky ass music.
Someone was asking me what kind of music was in the background. I said it's music that's very Mike.
It's a soundtrack composed of mostly modern funk, boogie, a little bit of Italo disco this week, but it's like contemporary Italo. But mostly it's modern funk and boogie. So it is, and some modern boogie. So contemporary in that regards, but then it's pretty much either now or the early 80s. Pretty much if you're looking for good boogie music, the general guideline is 1980 to 1985. Now you can find things all the way up to like 1987 and a little bit past in the boogie genre or even in 79, but like your little golden window is like 1980 to 1985. So yes, those are all live recorded mixes for the soundtrack. Primarily vinyl. If the track isn't available on vinyl, it's digital, but so far out of the 2 mixes, there's only been 1 track where that's the case, and that is the very first track on the first mix. Everything else is vinyl. That's why you notice if you listen to the mix, some parts of it are off, and I flub, because I'm not that good of a DJ, so, you know.
I know nothing about music, so
Mike Patton did a whole album of 40s and 50s Italian pop music. Whoa, that's crazy. I'd like to hear that. Mike Patton is the lead singer of, he's actually a Bay Area guy. He is the lead singer of Faith No More and Mr. Bungle, and he's quite a prolific artist. You might have also heard him singing on the Lovage album, which is pretty amazing. And Ryan Sheldon is asking where the platypus is, and I'm going to show you right now where the platypus is. That sounds weird and dirty when I say it that way, but that's not how I meant it.
Where the platypus is.
Right here. Look, right here. Cuddleton hangs out right on the side in the show. Right there. So that's for you. That's for you guys.
Good to know.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's got to have his watchful eye over the show, you know.
Maybe that's why I'm not doing this very well, because I don't have him watching over me.
Yeah.
I have my platypuses upstairs or in my bedroom.
You see, that's the problem, is you don't have them with you. They're the guiding spirit of art. That's clearly the only reason that a mistake would be made.
Yes.
That has nothing to do with your own decision-making or any type of human flaws. It is clearly the fact that it's clearly an act of superstition that something went wrong.
Yes.
It's well proven that superstition is accurate and real.
It's well proven that superstition is proven.
Yes, it's a proven fact. It's the one thing James Randi could not prove against. He's like, ugh, superstition, you got me. You guys win. Here's your $1 million.
Dizzo says, Mike threw the gauntlet. Guess Sarah has to show a cat. Go find one. I know that they are there.
Yeah, well, you know the deal.
All right. I'll finish the show on finding a cat. Wait,
okay.
Let me save. All right.
She's gone. Let's say a bunch of weird, terrible things. I'm just kidding. Yeah, Mike Patton, 8-octave range. That dude is ridiculous. Super talented. All right. Well, we'll go into end the show mode here because we're getting to the end.
Yeah. How do I do a thing?
How do I do stuff?
I don't know how to change back to me. I think you have to do it.
I do it. I'm on chat mode right now, but you were switching. So once it's back to just well, it has to be. Your screen has to be Skype, which for some reason it's being weird, and I don't know why. It's still showing your computer screen.
But all I have to beat you is a cat.
All right. I think I need to make adjustments on things, and that means I need to travel into new, terrifying areas of OBS.
No, what's going on?
All right, hold on a second.
Don't break it.
No promises. Oh boy. Let me see.
I'm gonna have a go at trying to complete this RGD off the show and see if I can figure it out once my brain's working and I'm not thinking about a show.
Are you sharing your screen on Skype right now?
Yeah, I think
that's the problem. Is I think you're on screen share on Skype, and that's the problem.
Did that fix it?
That fixed it. There we go. There's a cat.
He's getting tired now. He's like, I've been here for too long. There's a cat. You asked for a cat, you got a cat. This is Cosmo. And Dizaft, who is in chat, is actually my brother David, and this is his cat. I stole his cat to show on screen.
Did you take it from him while he's watching in chat? You're just like,
no, he was sat next to me. He was sleeping, so I woke him up for you guys. Shmoodify isn't even here to freak out about the cat.
Well, he can catch it later on YouTube, where we post the episodes later.
On our awful YouTube link.
Yeah.
Get everybody you know, even if they don't want to watch our show, to subscribe.
Yes.
To our YouTube channel.
Yes.
So that we can have a YouTube link that works.
Yes. So we don't have a YouTube link that looks like a virus. We need everyone to subscribe so we can get enough subscribers so YouTube actually lets us have a proper link.
Yeah, we have to have 100 subscribers on YouTube, and then we can make it an actual link that works. Right now, it just looks like a death link.
And it's really... It's funny how over time, to prevent spam, it becomes more and more difficult to kind of like start something, like to get started and to promote it. You don't have like the simple tools to promote it because you have to like prove that you're a real thing. So it's like just getting the stuff going right in the beginning is like one of the most difficult parts. I guess that's like that with anything, but
that's weird. Is that something new? Yes, it wasn't like that when I set up my A Game of Draws channel. It's definitely new within the past year, I think.
Well, one thing I'm wondering if it's because the difference between like a businessy YouTube account or a personal account, because I did it in the way where you can use like a name. You don't just use. I think if you just use like your Google Plus name or whatever, your Gmail name, it works. But since this was like not a first last name thing, I think it forces you to have to prove that like you're a real entity. Since it doesn't directly attach to a person. At least that's my theory. I'm not sure. It could be a completely new thing in general. I don't know yet.
It's very odd. Very odd. Right, the cat has left. I think that means that's the end of the show then.
Yeah.
We haven't got a cat. We can't keep filming.
Yeah, there's no point in making art or talking about art if there's not a cat present.
Ryan Sheldon says that cat is chill as fuck.
On screen, but off screen. That cat's a barf fest, probably. I don't know. I don't have a cat.
No. Cosmo's a good cat. That's why I picked Cosmo.
Oh.
Cosmo is like the happiest little cat. He will just sit there. He will let you like flop his little hands about and stuff. He's so happy. But like, Jasper's a scaredy cat. He would like get upset with me and be like, "Why are you holding me in front of the camera?" And then Comet's the douchebag. Comet's a horrible cat. He's adorable and he's like very snuggly. But he also straight up bullies me.
This is straight up. I love him. He's a great cat, and he's also a demon.
He is a demon. He walks up to me. I was sat at this table earlier doing my 10 pages a day, right? I'm sat there drawing, and my boyfriend sat opposite me, and he's like, "You shouldn't have let the cat in." I'm like, "Why?" And he's like, "He's gonna come up here and throw all your stuff on the floor." And you know what? He did. He jumped up and he threw all my pens on the floor, and I was like, that was useful.
I don't know why cats are so addicted to doing that. Tim has a friend that has 2 cats, and he has to watch them, and it's like, it sounds like totally like that Lady and the Tramp thing where the cats just cause, except less racist, but it causes a bunch of mayhem. Like there's a cat that just loves shoving glasses off the table, like that old stereotype, but it really does it, you know. I don't know what cats' problems are sometimes. Should mention, Brain My Brain says their business channel didn't have that requirement when they set it up from the G Plus business page. I don't know if there's something that I can do to make it not need that. I would appreciate it.
I feel like
the
channel already exists, so we have this issue.
I mean, yeah.
I don't know if you switch out once it already exists.
It was while we were setting it up. It just said you had to fulfill these requirements because I was trying I want my personal domain from it, and that said you need to fill all these requirements, and one of them was having the number of subscribers. Whatever. If there's any more questions, you can quickly let us know. We're gonna be out of here in a minute.
Yeah, I don't think there are any questions. It was all fake questions, like where is your purpose and stuff. Not that that's any less legit than like an art question.
All right, cool. So, and we should probably get out of here.
Yeah, thanks for watching, everyone.
All right, catch you guys later. We'll keep you posted. Look for the post-show discussion in the Artist Lounge subreddit. And thanks for watching.
Oh, and if you didn't finish your artwork, don't worry. Send it to us so we can have it on screen next week.
Yep. We can put it on screen. It can rotate then right at the beginning of the show.
If the show is running next week, that will be up to you to decide.
Right. That's up to me because you're out of town, so I have to figure that out.
We should tell people what we're up to.
Yes. Oh my God, we almost didn't do that. So next week, it might just have to be like a full blown draw party or something. Maybe I won't even talk. Maybe I'll just play a bunch of really loud music and then we'll just draw. And it won't be like an official thing. Maybe we'll just turn into silly gooses next week. But yeah, for myself, things going on. God, I'm just doing a lot of things for this. I know there was the question about the music. You can find music on Mixcloud. Look for the Funisher account, and that will have all the soundtracks every week, primarily pretty much all vinyl. Any questions about that, let me know. I'm trying to get some merch things set up on Society 6, so I'll keep people posted on that. I've been making prints, and I'm getting art ready for prints and merchandise. It's just not quite ready yet. I'm doing... I'm helping a gallery called Fourth Wall Gallery in Oakland get things set up there. Susan, just director, Susan Olick runs the space. She's an artist. It is a great space, and she's really great. Good, genuine spot. I highly recommend looking at that. fourthwallart.com. Going to be helping around there. And as far as other things that friends have going on, there's Modern Funk Fest. If you're in San Francisco or if you're in California, you should go to it, even though it is literally tomorrow, so you don't have much time left. But that's at the Elbow Room, but you can find the mixtapes of all the music. If you like the music that's playing tonight, you'll definitely enjoy that. You can find that at... Actually, I'm wearing the shirt, Hobo Camp. Hobo Camp is a record label that put out a mixtape of it on Bandcamp. I highly suggest listening to it and downloading and enjoying. Yeah, we don't have First Friday coming up or anything. I don't have any announcements to make for FM Gallery. So I think that's it for now, and I'll keep you guys posted on more stuff. How about yourself?
Okay, so I'm actually really intrigued to see what you do with merch and stuff. But okay, next week I am flying out on Tuesday to Scotland, where I'm going to fall in love with every single person because I love the accent. And I am going to be doing... MCM Glasgow that weekend, so next weekend, not this one, next weekend. So if you are in the Glasgow area, pop by and say hi. I will be under the table name Geyzra Inc., Gyzra. You can find all of my little info at geyzra.com, which is just below me, and that'll have my social media and stuff, so you can follow along and find me. I don't know if I'm going to be doing any art. I'm going to be on holiday, taking a break from 10 pages a day. So I don't know if I'll do any art. I might bring my tablet with me. If I bring my tablet with me, then I'll try and complete the 2 RGDs from this show. But otherwise, don't expect any art other than the show. So yeah, come by, get some artwork done live. I'm fully booked for commissions at the moment. I'm booked until Christmas, so I can't accept any like big paintings and stuff this time around, but I'll have the books with me. I have book 3 coming out at the end of this year, if I can get enough money to print it. So you can pick up book 1 and book 2 now, so that you're ready for book 3. And I'll be doing live drawings that are just like little sketches of people in like my kind of like Magari type style. So yeah, if you're there, come say hi and give me a hug. I'd love to see you guys. And then everything will be back to normal the week after, and I will look like an insane person because I'll be getting ready for MCM London in October. So, God, I'm pretending that it doesn't exist. I'm like internally screaming.
That was the... I should mention that the song everyone was wondering about came back on, and it is by a group called Dreamboat, and that is... released on the Cosmic Chronic label. It is in the mix. I put a link in the chat so you guys can look that up. Dreamboat consists of Mickey DeGrand the Fourth and what was the other person's name? I forgot what they... Give me a minute. I want to give proper credit once I start saying it. Edgar Rojas Masferer? They go by something else. Anyways, look it up. Cosmic Chronic Records. I sent you a link. That's the song that you guys have been wondering about this whole episode. It's great. It's by Dreamboat. If you can't find the record, you can find probably ways to download it on cosmicchronic.com, etc. Enjoy. Cool. That's all I got, people.
That's us done. We're off. We love you guys. Thanks for sharing all your artwork, guys.
Peace out. Thank you.
Bye.